Hi to Silicon Valley Bill.
Okay. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. It took a little longer than usual, but we're ready to go. Don't mind Rain, he's just always cranky. Alright, let's check out Stellaris. It has some new DLC, and let's check out this new video by Jessie Gender. I can't wait to see what she came up with. Let's start it off, because I'm gonna be real. I'm probably going to agree with it, but like, let's just see. Alright, first things first, let's get into the new game, and more importantly, let's go ahead and turn the music down so we can hear, you know, the video. Alright, advisor, we'll turn the advisor down a little bit too, apply and close. Let's get to a new game. And in the meantime, let's start this off.
Billionaires love Star Trek so damn much. Sure, they've got other sci-fi side flings. Mark Zuckerberg swiped Metaverse from Snow Crash, a book literally about how the metaverse is bad, which is kind of like naming your
There we
new
go.
theme park Jurassic Park.
I hope everyone can
And
hear this.
as
Everyone
the San
good?
Francisco Standard recently revealed,
All right.
a bunch of top Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, including OpenAI's CEO Sam Altman,
There's
are
so many
obsessed
choices
with
now.
the Bobbyverse books by Dennis E. Taylor. You know, that heartwarming series about a sentient immortal AI that was based upon the uploaded brain of a giant Trekkie engineering nerd who saves humanity after World War III?
What?
Yeah. No
What?
clue why they would like that one.
Oh my god, that
It's
sounds
sort of just
awful.
Hits different, you know? The richest of the rich adore it. Like it's a luxury sci-fi brand for billionaires. The Rolex you can only wear if you've launched at least one phallic-shaped rocket into space. And they don't just like it. They name drop it
I'm just gonna go with
constantly
United Nations
and
of Earth.
basically
I'm just going
try to
classic.
treat it like a brand extension of themselves. Bill Gates once dressed as Spock to launch a version of Windows. Jeff Bezos almost named Amazon MakeItSo.com. Yes, really. And keeps a model of the USS Enterprise in a Blue Origin lobby like it's a holy relic. And both Bezos and Elon Musk, everyone's
I mean, to be fair, I kinda like that
billionaire,
bubble, but-
claim Star Trek inspired them to get into tech.
And when I was in 4th grade, I watched every Star Trek episode in reruns.
I don't believe
and
him.
Many times, over and over. You know, they would just
No.
repeat them.
Musk even wore
I
a
just don't
Starfleet
believe him.
Academy patch during the 2024 US election. You know, the one he illegally interfered with.
I'm wearing this jacket that was given to me by the Space Force. You know, it's got Star Trek Enterprise on it. You know, it's like Starfleet Academy. We want to
God,
make
he's
Starfleet
such a
Academy
ghoul.
real.
Then he hopped onto his white genocide is real to reiterate it.
Let's make Starfleet Academy real.
And on the surface, a lot of these billionaires seem to love Star Trek for the same reason a lot of people do, myself included. That it's one of the few pop culture depictions
I'm
of a
so
future
not ready for
that's
this.
actually
I don't
optimistic.
think it's going to be
Not
good.
another story of fascism in space or an apocalypse or a dystopia, but a vision where humanity actually got its act together,
Yeah.
beyond war and beyond poverty, and went to the stars.
Get you
Like,
shit
I certainly
together.
like Star Trek because that actually shows like more of a utopian future. Like it's not like things like aren't horrible in the future. Like it's like there's so many bloody
such a
post-apocalyptic
hypocrite.
futures.
Oh my
like
God.
okay, can we have one that's nice?
And we rightly like to laugh at them for it, don't we?
I mean, for real. All right.
I mean, don't they know that Star Trek hates billionaires?
Not everyone on Targalis is happy about the removal of capitalism. We have elitist terrorist cells popping up all over the continent.
Literally, Picard
Yup.
gave a whole speech about how we don't have money anymore.
Money doesn't exist in the 24th century.
Star Trek is woke. It's fully automated.
Now, I will say, I like the economics of Star Trek, and there's another video I watched recently about that, and I will happily say that. I hope she gets into it, but I will just happily say, the best way to view it is, yeah, there's still a sense of resource, and there's still a sense of, like, how much one can make, but the general citizen... a very simplistic way of looking at it would be, if we're still looking at it in a capitalist lens, boo, you could think of it as, it's not that every company is doing well, it's that every company in the nation is doing well, and therefore the nation accumulates all the wealth from the companies, and then every citizen is getting a cut of the company's wealth that they are producing every year. And it's not a small cut, it's an equal cut for every single person, regardless of where they were born and what family and all that shit. No, just straight up everybody. Just straight up everyone gets this universal basic resource allotment that is so insignificantly not a part of their lives anymore because, again, especially now, we have all the resources we need is just, converted by a few incredibly narcissistically selfish people. But to the point is, you can still have Star Trek at home. We could totally do Star Trek at home levels of economic resource development, but no. So let's see.
Luxury gay space communism, baby.
Yeah, space communism. Woo!
Star Trek, gay
Anyway.
space.
Yes.
God, I love Brendan Lee Mulligan.
Yeah, right?
Literally the perfect man. The perfect
he's
man.
so good.
Hell, back when Musk tweeted, "Let's make Starfleet Academy real," star of Star Trek Prodigy, Voyager, and the upcoming Starfleet Academy, Robert Picardo, clapped back.
Step 1. Support a leader who embodies Starfleet values like diversity, inclusion, and ethical behavior.
Yeah.
And tons of people cheered at the good old doctor owning Musk like he was Janeway and Musk was a Tuvix.
Does anyone see that this is wrong?
Except, Picardo said that on Musk's own platform. The one filled with Nazis, boosting white nationalism, and whose so-called AI is explicitly programmed to deny the genocide in Gaza and wants to be called Mecha Hitler. So sure, Picardo
yeah.
did a fun dunk, but it was a dunk performed inside the Billionaires' own sandbox, boosting his engagement. All of the attention to the tweet just went to prove how much Musk owns the platform where we have these conversations. No matter how much we like to make fun of these billionaires not getting Star Trek's future, we're currently living in theirs.
Yep.
And before all of you say it, cue the Disco Elysium quote.
Capital has the ability to subsume all critiques into itself. Even those who would critique capital end up reinforcing it instead.
And to be fair, Star Trek itself hasn't exactly shunned these guys. Bill Gates visited the Star Trek Enterprise set way back in the early 2000s. Elon Musk himself got mentioned in Star Trek Discovery twice as a great man of history, and even someone who literally got a school named after him. At least they mentioned it was an awful school.
You're the nicest person I've ever met at this awful school.
Nice.
Hell, Jeff Bezos himself literally had an uncredited cameo in the movie Star Trek Beyond, buried under unrecognizable latex prosthetics, finally giving him the chance to see what it's like to work 12 hours in uncomfortable conditions. It's a shame because it means literally one of my top 3 favorite Star Trek movies has a billionaire jump scare in it.
Ew.
But on that note, though, since 2009, all of the Star Trek films have been produced by David Ellison, CEO of Skydance and son of Oracle co-founder, and person who went, literally during the editing of this video, from being the second richest man to the most richest man in the world ahead of Elon Musk himself, Larry Ellison. This is the same Larry Ellison, by the way, who helped Musk buy Twitter because he thought it sounded fun, and also sat on Tesla's board for 4 years, and is also close friends with Donald Trump, and whose company stands to directly benefit from Trump's AI and tech policies, including his company being the frontrunner to buy TikTok's US operations so that the app can legally keep running in this country. These are all the men who've bought the platforms where we meet and imagine the future. From social media to the internet to outer space.
What am I going with this
all
time?
privatizing our collective dreams before we can even make them real. And now, Skydance itself just bought Paramount, the studio that owns Star Trek, with funding from Larry Ellison himself. Skydance itself, in appeasement of the Trump administration's fascist policies, recently appointed a new ombudsman to keep CBS News from criticizing the administration, and will likely hand over CBS News to Barry Weiss, whose The Free Press has worked to enable authoritarianism through centrism by painting the so-called far left as just as dangerous as rising authoritarianism under Trump, as well as both siding Israel's genocide and amplifying Israeli propaganda, even as Palestinians starve in Gaza.
Wow,
and
not even
promised to kill
surprising.
Paramount's already narrow diversity programs, the very thing Star Trek supposedly stands for. Infinite
Right.
diversity in infinite combinations. You know, the thing that I love so much that I literally have it tattooed on my arm.
Oh!
So,
damn.
Star Trek was
Oh,
always
she's
intended
for
not
real.
only to imagine something better, but to challenge the status quo and power of today, as well as to be an anti-capitalist, inclusive, socialist future. Why are these guys so obsessed with it? Do they not understand Star Trek? Or, when we smugly laugh and say that they don't get it, are we the ones missing something?
Please
Is the
enlighten
joke
me.
actually on us?
I wouldn't doubt
What
it.
do they see in Star Trek? And what does Star Trek see in them? And what does answering those questions tell us about what it means when our future and our dreams for it get bought?
6 more orders. Can I build a new ship yet? I sure can. I just realized what she's using. This is too funny. Oh my gosh, she's going Enterprise. I love it. Disgusting. I don't know what this music is, but it's very fitting. It's definitely not a long way home. Oh my god, it's been a long way. Oh my god, that dance! It's so... I can't. They're all so awful. Oh, so gross. Let's hire another scientist. Oh my god! Yeah, no, I don't want, oh, it's gonna make me so sad, isn't it? Oh, hail the Terran Empire. Oh, please.
Star Trek is often directly cited as anti-capitalist, most especially early Star Trek The Next Generation under Trek's creator Gene Roddenberry's influence.
Yeah.
The first season finale, The Neutral Zone, which aired in May 1988, makes it quite blunt. A 20th century capitalist wakes up from cryogenic sleep convinced that wealth equals power.
Yep.
Only for Captain Picard himself
Welcome
to
to
tell
the
him
chat.
that money
Hello.
and competition are now relics of a less enlightened past.
A lot has changed in the past 300 years. People are no longer obsessed with the accumulation of things. We have eliminated hunger, want, the need
Hell
for
yeah.
possessions. We've grown out of our infancy.
Still want
You got
stuff,
it all
but
wrong.
not.
It has never been about possessions. It's about power.
Yeah.
Power to do what?
Yeah. That's what
To
we need
control
get rid of.
your life, your destiny.
You can do that
That
together.
kind of control is an illusion.
Exactly.
Gene Roddenberry himself overtly argued that The Next Generation was a future where humanity had shed
a staggering burden of soon-to-be outmoded values and political ideas, capitalistic and other economic assumptions, religious habits, Western industrial world prejudices, and so on.
I wish he was
Star Trek
right.
even had the Ferengi, who were initially positioned as Star Trek's new big bad as a replacement for the Klingons from the original series, and were themselves a caricature of ruthless, misogynistic capitalist profiteers, complete
Let's
with
go.
literal phallic space whips. You know, the thing that every capitalist has.
We Ferengi are now challenged.
This
human madness.
this episode has not aged well.
From some worlds.
You see? They are demented. Their values are insane. You cannot believe the business opportunities they have destroyed.
The problem is that Star Trek has always remained vague about what materially replaced capitalism. There's no specifics on resource management, how needs are met, or what systems replaced capitalism's core split between private and public property in Star Trek's future. We do get little hints. Captain Picard's family vineyard,
Yeah,
or
obviously.
Joseph Sisko's
There's
Creole
still
restaurant
owned
on Earth
areas,
both
apparently.
suggest, as YouTuber Rowan J. Coleman argued in his excellent How Star Trek's Future Works series, some distinction between personal and public property, but the franchise never says any of it outright. As one biographer of Gene Roddenberry argued,
in his rush to perfect posterity, Roddenberry failed to delineate
Yeah!
just what replaced
I've
these
seen this.
obsolete
I've seen
institutions.
this.
As a consequence, viewers of both Star Trek and The Next Generation know a great deal about numerous alien cultures, but almost nothing about life on 24th century Earth. That it has become a paradise free of poverty and prejudice is a given. The memes are not. If nation-states have been eliminated,
Yeah,
by
I
which
made
culture's
Rain a
rules
mod
does the
because I trust
Federation
Rain.
govern? Judging by the evidence, it would seem to be a Western culture, one that adheres to the standard Judeo-Christian ethic that Roddenberry abhorred. And how, one wonders, does his philosophy of infinite diversity through infinite combinations apply to Earth, which boasts countless disparate cultures, if the Federation speaks for everyone?
and after
That's
Gene
fair.
Roddenberry's death
That's fair.
in the mid-90s, studio executive Rick Berman took over running the franchise.
Oh,
and
Rick.
unlike Roddenberry, who was a creative producer, Berman's focus was instead on keeping Star Trek marketable. And functionally, that meant smoothing away anything too political or challenging to
unfortunately, that's the
modern-day
plan.
audiences. The
Isn't it?
canonically gay characters, for example, that Roddenberry long promised before his death, never actually arrived under Berman's tenure. Women
Nope.
were often costumed and shot for sex appeal,
Yep.
and the Federation stayed squeaky clean in ways that made brand managers happy. It was all about brand logic. Protect the four-quadrant appeal. Not the cool four galactic quadrants kind. No, sadly, the boring marketing ones.
Yeah.
Where instead of boldly going where no one's gone before, you boldly went wherever the cultural zeitgeist told you to.
Yeah.
And by the early to mid-90s in the United States, that meant aligning with the era's reigning ideology, neoliberalism. Yeah, I know. I said one of the words on the leftist video essay bingo sheet. I hope you already covered the late-stage capitalism free space.
Yeah, let's
But
go.
stick with me. I promise we'll get to sentient AI gods and technological raptures soon enough. But
Oh, I'm
before
ready
then,
for
we
'em.
gotta deal with old man Reagan. For the layman,
Fucking
neoliberalism was the
Reaganomics.
late 20th century makeover of democracy, recasting it around market logic. Competition, privatization, and deregulation weren't just policies, they were treated like the natural order of the universe. President Ronald Reagan pushed it in the United States and Margaret Thatcher in the UK, and then it spread worldwide, sometimes gently, sometimes at gunpoint. And pretty soon, even the Democrats, supposedly Ronald Reagan's opposition in the United States, were selling the same ideas.
Yup.
Here, in this place, our responsibility begins with balancing the budget in a way that is fair to all Americans.
Ooh, the First League. I'll take that as my
became
ancients.
the overriding ideology of American culture, framing itself as antithetical to a collective socialist approach to the future, the same future that Star Trek was supposedly about.
To increase our national wealth so all will have more.
If only.
Not just redistribute what we already have,
if only.
which is just a sharing of scarcity. We can begin to reward hard work and risk-taking by forcing this government to live within its means.
Oh my God,
And for many
I
Silicon
wish.
Valley tycoons today, the same ideology at the heart of neoliberalism fuels their world.
Oh,
Venture capitalist
Snowpiercer
Mark
was great.
Anderson, co-founder of Netscape, and Andreessen Horowitz, one of the most powerful VC firms in the world, has poured more money into numerous startups, including AI startups, than almost anyone. And in 2023, Anderson published his Techno-Optimist Manifesto, a 5,000-word credo that reads like the Prime Directive was rewritten by Gordon Gekko. If Gekko also wanted to make sweet, decon chamber-style love to a warp core.
No thanks.
We'll go into more depth about what this manifesto is about later on, but at its core, it frames Anderson's entire ideology, and it's built on much of the same assumptions of neoliberalism.
Societies, like sharks, grow or die. We believe growth is progress.
Construction
Everything
completed.
good is downstream of growth. Without growth comes stagnation, degradation, collapse,
Blocker cleared.
and ultimately, death.
Anderson frames the free market as the ultimate expression of society that drives the utopian future neoliberalism promises, wrapped all in American nationalism.
We believe markets lift people out of poverty.
God,
In fact,
please, yuck.
markets are by far the most effective way to lift vast numbers of people out of poverty, and always
Oh my God,
have
no.
been. Even in totalitarian regimes, an incremental lifting of the repressive boot off the throat leads to rapid rising incomes.
I wish you
Lift
guys
the boot
could
a little
see
more,
the sneer on my
take
face.
the boot off entirely. Who knows how rich everyone can get? We believe America and her allies should be strong. National strength flows from economic strength, cultural strength, and military strength. Yeah, I bet that power gets you hard. Moving on.
He even echoes the logic that makes neoliberalism dovetail neatly with Star Trek's collectivist sheen.
We believe markets are an inherently individualistic way to achieve superior collective outcomes.
Anderson cast Silicon Valley billionaires themselves as heroic captains.
We believe in adventure,
Blocker
undertaking the hero's journey, rebelling against the status quo, mapping uncharted territory.
Who are these guys? Are they all 12?
Bringing home the spoils.
Jesus Christ, buddy.
for
Are
our
you 12?
community.
All of these guys see themselves as the great men, the Luke Skywalkers, who will exit the cave and return to change society for us. See my and Aronok's video on Star Wars for more on that ideology.
Yeah,
It is
no
ultimately
thanks.
a creed,
I'm good.
a demand
I've
for
eaten
constant
enough of that.
forward motion, an unshakable faith in their hand at the
System
helm of
survey
society.
concluded.
That's not...
And despite its initial collectivist ideals under Roddenberry, Star Trek The Next Generation gradually absorbed that neoliberal logic, shifting from celebrating science and collective problem solving to instead centering risk-taking and individual
I forgot.
success. It embraced great men on heroes' journeys. The late Star Trek The Next Generation episode Tapestry is a perfect example of this. The episode is basically It's a Wonderful Life if Clarence were your immortal, omnipotent, flirty gay boyfriend who likes to wear robes and judge humanity from time to time.
Every once in a
I feel
while.
like celebrating. I don't.
For real.
All right.
Said flirty gay boyfriend Q gives Captain
System
Picard
survey
himself the chance to relive the day that he was stabbed in a bar brawl in his youth, eventually leading to him avoiding the injury that changed his life forever. But in the altered timeline that Picard returns to, Picard learns that he's a perfectly respectable science officer instead of a captain, someone who followed a safe, predictable career in studying science and technology.
There's
also
nothing wrong
someone
with
who's
that.
destined to stay middle management.
I would like to move beyond astrophysics to engineering or security. Something that might even lead to command. Frankly, Lieutenant, I don't think that's realistic.
To Picard, this job that most of the officers on his ship, the Enterprise D, have, is a fate worse than death.
I would rather die as the man I was than live the life I just saw.
The moral of the story is ultimately that greatness comes from bold, risky, even reckless moves. The kind that might get you stabbed by a 9-foot-tall space biker who looks like they lost a bet with a dental surgeon, but which could also land you in the captain's chair. It reframes Picard's decisiveness and his willingness to stand up for principles, not as the result of belief in a collective of people working together to build you up, or from learning from others and existing in a community.
That's a good point about that episode.
That he's the right kind of man who should sit in the captain's chair and lead us into the stars. It's
well, thankfully I have a
era
flirty cute
bootstraps
girlfriend.
Logic, one that subtly casts every single science officer in Star Trek as just a failed captain, and equates success
A failed
instead
captain.
with
Oh, that's awful.
prestige
No, it's
and
not
authority.
how it works. That's
Even
not how it
characters who
works.
seemed content outside of the chain of command at the beginning of the series, like Counselor Deanna Troi, were eventually given arcs later in the series about earning promotions and wanting to seek command, ultimately equating growth with climbing the hierarchy and proving that you can make the hard calls.
Oh, shit.
It's not every doctor who gets to command a starship, even if it is the night shift.
And that mindset still lingers in Star Trek today, with Star Trek Voyager's 7 of 9, who was created in the 90s and was once a character who seemed far more interested in science, eventually given an arc where she's written towards becoming the captain of the USS Enterprise G in 2023's Star Trek Picard. It's
God,
the same
season 3
narrative that
was
shapes many
pretty
of Star
good,
Trek's
bud.
protagonists.
See, Lower
The
Decks is
captain's
great.
chair,
Lower Decks
being
is
at the top of the
amazing.
hierarchy isn't just a job, it's the culmination of a life defined by decisive, risky moments that supposedly foreshadow their greatness all along. And many of these real-life supposedly great men today who embody that ideal have literally walked Picard's halls. A decade before Gates or Bezos, President Ronald Reagan himself toured the Enterprise set.
Okay. Okay, cool, whatever
This,
that
by
means.
the way, is why so many tech bros latch onto Captain Kirk, specifically as their favorite captain in Star Trek. For example, in December 2023, Elon Musk tweeted at William Shatner,
"You will always be my captain."
while Jeff Bezos, after shooting Shatner up into orbit on his gleaming, overcompensating penis rocket,
I need a
waited
drink.
until the poor guy was trying to have a genuine, heartfelt moment when he got back to the ground, then whipped out a champagne bottle in his face and sprayed the 90-year-old down like he just conquered a woman in their frat house.
I remember that moment. I was so upset by it. Yeah,
They really
Shatner.
just wanna fuck Shatner, don't they?
Oh my. Oh my.
Don't worry, there were sexy girls there. That makes it totally not gay, because you can't risk even a flicker of silly girl feelings like genuine connection or shared joy with another man.
I love her.
No.
This is hilarious.
Not programmed for you.
Yes,
Jokes
season 3
aside,
is better
though,
than the
this
seasons 1 and
moment
2 by far.
really does
and
read
the last
as
two episodes basically
homoerotic
carry the
because
entirety of
Jeff
season
Bezos
3.
is treating Shatner the way
No,
that all
this
of
is
these
not a
guys
joke.
treat women, and really anyone that they see as beneath them, as someone to exploit, to
females.
perform
Yeah, it's totally
dominance over,
Frankie
not
coded.
someone who's a human being trying to share a genuine feeling with you. These guys
Research.
literally cannot handle intimacy with another man or even person unless it's reframed around
Oh, we got the
conquest,
lasers, that's
ego, or control. Tenderness isn't allowed. It has to be victory. But they all idolize the character of Captain Kirk because to them, he's the ideologicized American man, the swaggering, gut instinct cowboy, John Wayne in space. And a lot of these qualities are especially emphasized in modern interpretations of Kirk, such as Chris Pine's portrayal of the character in the Skydance films, which, you know, at least justify this change in his character by depicting him as an alternative universe Kirk with a rougher childhood and an
silly names?
inexplicable love for the Beastie Boys.
Beastie Boy. Oh my god. It's true. Everything about the Beastie Boys. It's what I need. It's what I do.
I will stand by the fact, by the way, that needle drop in Star Trek Beyond is one of the best in science fiction.
Yeah.
But to them, Picard's the intellectual, and Sisko's the war prophet, Burnham's the overachiever, Janeway's the caffeine-fueled scientist,
Woo! I
and
love her.
Archer, well,
He was all right.
Archer's just happy to be here.
Archer's just happy.
Humans
Oh
aren't
my
like
god.
that,
That's
Ambassador.
great.
We may come from the same planet as those gazelles, but we're pretty much helpless when we're born.
What? Your himbo captains.
Right.
Of all the captains, tech bros
Himbo.
want the risk-drunk Kirk.
No.
Someone who takes action for action's sake. The
Boo.
guy they imagine themselves to be The kind of person that Musk believes he is when he says,
"You could either be a spectator or a participant."
Kirk's the go-getter. He's not passive. He gets out there and he does things no matter what.
Risk. Risk is our business.
But in truth, the original Shatner Kirk in the 60s often played chess and read books.
Hey, man, I remember you back at the academy. A stack of books with legs. Brings me back again to find out not the man.
Rocket Man.
The man was a giant fucking nerd, and he listened to intellectuals like Spock, and often thought before he did his double fist punch. But the Kirk in Tech Bro Fantasies is a nostalgic monument to a character who never really existed.
Correct.
He's nothing but a flim-flam, man. He's flim-flam.
A relic of the real man take risks era of America that never actually existed, that they're convinced would be canceled by the woke left today. Hell, the series Very Short Treks has already made that boomer fanfiction.
I'm sorry, okay? It's important that the Federation make all feel welcome, and I apologize. I'm a dumbass. I screwed up. What?
Screws are synonymous with making mistakes.
Again, this is the great man of history thinking model in action.
That's great.
Ambitious risk takers drive society forward, or, you know, the enterprise forward, and the rest of us get whatever trickles down from their greatness. I probably could have phrased that better. But this so-called great man of history mentality is what also supercharged Reagan-era neoliberalism. And, if we're honest, it's been baked into American myth-making since the beginning, carried over from Western colonialism.
Yes,
It's the fantasy
exactly.
that history only moves when a chosen few
Even my
stride
freaking
forward
fiction
as if on a
has
hero's
colonialism
journey,
to a degree, and I
carrying
hate
fire
it.
from the
I'm trying to
mountaintops
find a way
down
to get around
enlighten
it.
the rest of
I
us.
hate it.
But under Reagan, those heroes with 1,000
All right.
faces were cast as CEOs, financiers, or men in boardrooms. Men whose unique personal ambition and market conquests were acts of public good, and their wealth a gift that would eventually trickle down to the working class.
I urge those great institutions in America, business and labor, to be guided by the national interest, and I'm confident they will. The only special interest that we will serve is the interest of all the people. We can create the incentives which take advantage of the genius of our economic system. A system, as Walter Lippmann observed more than 40 years ago, which for the first time in history gave men, quote, a way of producing wealth in which the good fortune of others multiplied their own.
Where was this Reagan all of
In
our
this way,
effing
Ronald
lives?
Reagan echoed Thatcher's insistence that neoliberalism was the natural order of Western civilization. But he specifically wrapped all of this distinctly in American nationalism.
Yeah, so boo.
My God-given purpose to protect the United States of America!
Awful.
The message was that the United States wasn't just
we got
good
that.
at capitalism, it was particularly destined for it. That there was something just so special about America that made it the best version of what
Well, all right,
neoliberalism
Uji's
could be.
here.
Eventually,
Welcome
the marketplace
to-
of ideas was where we would
We're
prove
watching
our
why
strength and inherent
crazy
betterness
billionaires
to the world.
got the wrong message from
In
Star Trek.
Silicon Valley,
Or maybe
though, that
we got the
same
wrong message.
narrative
Who
of a
knows?
natural evolutionary journey towards destiny is rooted in one thing:
All right.
technology.
Technology. Yeah. Oh,
Tech
here's a
billionaires
tie-in.
see technology
Here's a
as
tie-in.
the engine of civilization,
Yarp.
past, present, and future. Take Elon Musk, who loves to muse about the cosmos and humanity in front of giant SpaceX rockets.
I'm aware of no evidence of aliens whatsoever.
I mean...
Which means that I think we're probably alone.
Oh no, what happened?
Just think about how old is civilization? I think the right measuring point for civilization, in my view, or a good measuring point, would be the advent of writing. You kind of need writing for civilization. So it's only been around for like a little over 5,000 years out of 4.5 billion years that Earth has been around, and the 13.8 billion years of the universe. So all of human civilization is basically the blink of an eye. I think that probably means that consciousness is incredibly rare.
Musk here is indirectly invoking the Fermi paradox. The question of why, given the size and age of the universe, we humans haven't found alien life yet.
Where are the Vulcans? Where are the Green Orions and the Blue Orions?
By his definition,
Where?
civilization on Earth started with writing and only a short time ago.
That's not...
Except...
That's not...
That leaves out a lot, because humans have existed long before writing.
And we've been expressing ourselves for a
existed
while.
for 300,000 years. Human-like ancestors existed for millions more, with things like a rich oral tradition, environmental engineering, and complex societies.
Correct.
Yet Western science often dismisses all of that as prehistory, a colonial framing that Haitian anthropologist Michel Roth-Troutot calls the production of silence.
Western narratives
What
often
a
deny
line.
agency to non-Western peoples by casting them as people without history, or as steps behind a Western model of progress.
In the 19th century, anthropology formalized the idea of unilinear cultural evolution. The idea that civilization is generally on a single track that often ends in what reflects a white Western modernity ideal.
Boo!
And this type of thinking hardly
Firefly
leads
got
to
it
the
better.
civilizing mission, what Richard Kipling framed as the white man's burden, that justified conquest, land theft, and enslavement, and the violent erasures of cultures deemed not yet ready until they resembled their colonizers.
Boo.
It's the same logic that's echoed in bigotry used to justify settler colonial projects even now, like Israel's justification of its genocide of Palestinians through the lie that they are a primitive, inferior culture who are, in their logic, less human and therefore okay to be taken over or destroyed.
Disgusting.
They are not the same as us.
I hate
They
this
come from an
roach
inferior
of a
culture
person.
that is horrible. It kills
I
people
shouldn't
for
say
their
hate. I shouldn't
identity,
say hate.
and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways. It is that simple. No, I don't feel bad for them. I don't feel sorry for them. I don't care.
Star Trek itself often
Gross.
mirrors this, treating history as a kind of conveyor belt towards the same eventual endpoint in utopia, even framing biological evolution itself
that's kinda
as
true.
preordained. Take episodes like Star Trek Voyager's Threshold,
Yeah.
where everyone's favorite ladies' man, Tom Paris, becomes the first person to travel at Warp 10, accidentally causing him to exist at all points in time at once, cause Star Trek, which causes him to start acceleratingly evolve into humanity's future end state.
The only difference between natural evolution and what happened to Mr. Paris is that his changes took place over a 24-hour period. Somehow, traveling at infinite velocity accelerated the natural human evolutionary process by millions of years.
God, I want to
Which
travel
is
at infinite
apparently
velocity.
very horny salamanders.
Very horny salamanders. Let's go.
Or take the Next Generation's episode
Such a weird
Genesis,
episode.
where a virus makes the crew de-evolve based on their
Oh,
genetic code.
yeah, this was crazy.
Instead of activating one dormant gene, it started activating all of them, including your introns.
And that's what caused me to de-evolve?
You and every other member of the crew.
Both treat evolution as a destiny rather
Yeah.
than adaptations over generations.
Correct.
Or take episodes like The Next Generation's The Chase, where we learn that an alien civilization that just happens to look like a white...
Oh my god, this episode is so bad, and it's I don't even know where to start on this. I'm gonna let it go. I'm just gonna let her explain. But this pepperoni pizza is great. Yeah, Paris yelling pepperoni pizza is great. But oh my god, this episode is so. Well, that's because that's an internet thing.
Woman
That's
ended up
an
seeding
internet
the
urban
entire
myth.
galaxy with life, explaining why so many of Star Trek aliens just look like humans with weird shit on their foreheads.
Correct.
It's the idea that there is a preordained path for evolution to go on, one that will end up reflecting a Western-style civilization. While the term prehistory, with our increasing awareness that it reinforces colonial hierarchies, hasn't been entirely discarded.
Right.
Today, most archaeologists define history not by the presence of writing, but by evidence, whether it be material, cultural, or environmental.
Yeah,
Yet
okay.
despite this mindset
I'd say
still
even
shapes how we
agricultural
think about
is an important
progress
part.
today. It's the same moral sleight of hand that would later be used to justify capitalism. The CEO's burden to uplift the American working man by...
I hate. Okay, I don't hate people, but I hate this mentality.
exploiting them and bringing us all up with him, the trickle-down economics
does not
theory
work.
that Ronald Reagan espoused. It's just the
You can't
repackaged
count
white
on
man's
a
burden for
benevolent
the
king.
modern capitalist.
You just can't.
Capitalism itself is the inheritor of much of colonialism's logic of time and progress as justification for exploitation and conflict. And violent conflict is seen as just the natural part of the evolutionary process.
We wouldn't happen to be invading Iran today, would we?
Would we be?
And violent conflict is also, in part, why Star Trek can appeal to both progressives and conservatives, as the wonderful TikToker Seth Duncan explained perfectly.
So, war is hell. I don't think anyone would consider that statement to be controversial. But American conservatives tend to see the world in a very dog-eat-dog kind of way. They tend to consider it an axiom that all life forms are doomed to compete with each other for access to hopelessly limited natural resources, or to advance their bespoke ideologies. And as long as that remains true, violence is inevitable. And because they consider violence
this is opening up my mind
inevitable,
right now.
They take pride in preparing themselves for it. Now, Star
Disgusting.
Trek isn't a war theater,
It's
but
not.
it certainly doesn't shy away from the topic of war either. The Federation is almost constantly in a state of conflict, either in an active war or urgently trying to avoid a war. But either way, there's a near constant threat of possible violence.
That is
so
unfortunately
while
true.
Starfleet
Whoa.
doesn't consider
hello,
itself
everybody.
to be a
Welcome to,
military
my
and definitely
expose.
doesn't want anyone to perceive it like a military, the United Federation of Planets still views Starfleet as its only line of defense regardless.
The Navy.
So
It's the
military
effing
or not,
Navy.
Starfleet still has to be very, very good at using deadly force.
Correct.
Put Starfleet in a tactical situation, and you'll have most American conservatives eating out of Gene
Star Trek may not be a war story. In fact, it's usually very anti-war in terms of its messages. But war is always looming in the background. Be it from the Klingons, the Borg, the Dominion, the Borg again, the Breen, the Borg again, or the totally not a poorly handled metaphor for Al-Qaeda. Despite Starfleet's
I remember that. That was so awful in Enterprise.
As
Oh my
the
god.
Federation's military when it needs to, and it's damn good at it. They don't want war, but if it comes, they've got the biggest ship and the moral high ground. It's a very American worldview. Like the Federation, America should prove its strength, take the lead, and set the terms for everyone else, and is always, always the good guy. Speak softly and carry a photon torpedo, as they say. And all of this fits in neatly with political capitalist idea that endless competition is necessary for and inherent to societal progress. Competition, they assert, forces innovation, evolution, and growth. It's survival of the fittest. And it's an overlap of colonial and capitalistic mindsets, one building out of the other. So while money itself supposedly doesn't exist in the Federation, a lot of the assumptions on how economy and power works still exist in that universe. The Federation bids for wormholes, negotiates trade agreements that benefit itself, acts as a landlord at times.
Maybe I don't know much about Ferengi culture, but I do know who holds the lease on your bar.
Aha. Federation. And I couldn't ask for better landlords.
And often exerts soft imperial power that steers other planets' economies into alignment with its own standards.
So true.
If Bajor returns to the Dejara system, I have no doubt that its petition to join the Federation will be rejected.
Take out Chief O'Brien, the most important man in Star Trek, the man who, at this point in the series, is helping upgrade a space station that was once engineered by the fascist Cardassians to be retrofit for another non-Federation government. The Bajorans has no idea what a self-sealing stem bolt is used for, despite it supposedly being a common engineering item outside of Starfleet and the Federation.
Why does anybody use self-sealing stem bolts?
I wouldn't know. I've never used them.
Never?
I've never even seen one.
O'Brien's ignorance shows how the Federation operates. As Associate Professor of Cultural Geography at Harvey Mudd College, David K. Seitz notes, the Federation's hands often stay clean from local exchange while still setting the economic baseline for those it influences.
That's true.
Chief O'Brien's puzzled unfamiliarity with the self-sealing stem bolt thus tells us something important about the Federation's structuring. Even its imperial role in setting the economic standard for Bajor after Cardassian occupation. If the Federation is not so vulgar as to make Latinum its medium of exchange like the Ferengi,
Platinum
its
without the
material
P.
dominance in Bajaran space is unmistakable, rendering self-sealing stem bolts an obscure currency indeed. The bolts figure as a niche commodity, drag on the easy flow of universal exchange.
Bajor, the planet that O'Brien is helping, can keep its culture and its quirks, provided they align with and depend on a Federation-shaped economy, thereby cutting out other competing civilizations such as the Romulans, Klingons, or Cardassians.
Completed.
And that posture mirrors how the United States operated in the 80s under Reagan and throughout much of its history, if we'll be honest. The US didn't need formal colonies. It often used economic leverage, covert operations, and development aid to secure resources and markets around the world. For example, under Ronald Reagan, the United States used Saudi Arabian oil production money to help fund anti-communist rebellions around the world. It's colonialism outsourced through capitalism, still exploitative and often propagandized as a moral good. Just as the Federation helps other less prosperous planets like Bajor, America, and Western neoliberal democracies state that they are uplifting these countries and bringing them into a better, more just society, often framed against something like communism, to justify their interference in other cultures. These justifications go all the way back to the beginning of the Cold War and continued well past its end.
It is among
I can't wait to meet people.
Underfed.
Oh, she's so ugly on the inside and out. Oh God.
As Ethiopia demonstrated.
Oh God, she's so ugly.
People get precious
that soul, that aura she has is just like vile. Oh God. My monitor's cracking.
Bring neither help nor hope to the hungry. It is the West which heard their cries.
What?
It is the West which responded massively.
Yeah,
to
take advantage of them, maybe.
It
oh
is
my
the West
God.
which has made a unique contribution to the uplifting of hundreds of millions of people from poverty, illiteracy, and disease.
Oh my God, she
really is the devil. The United States continued to carry this logic forward into things like the War on Terror in the early 2000s, justifying the invasion of Afghanistan not only as a mission to stop terrorism, but as a moral duty to liberate women and girls from a supposedly backward society and the misogynistic Taliban. Figures on both sides of the aisle, like Hillary Clinton or Laura Bush, along with countless politicians and political pundits, framed the war as an act of feminist uplift, arguing that American intervention was necessary to save Middle Eastern women through Western values.
Good morning. I'm Laura Bush, and I'm delivering this week's radio address to kick off a worldwide effort to focus on the brutality against women and children by the Al-Qaeda terrorist network and the regime it supports in Afghanistan.
This sounds like AI before AI. It's
Scarcity
awful.
Utopia,
She's just reading the script hard.
Evolution runs on that same logic. Sell the dream of a better tomorrow while low-key deciding who gets to build it and who gets to own it. Likewise, modern tech billionaires continue elements of this exploitation and justification system. Musk's Tesla batteries rely on cobalt from abusive mines in the Congo. Here in the United States, Bezos' Amazon squeezes warehouse workers while exploiting low-wage labor abroad. So-called artificial intelligence is powered by mass consumptions of water, pollution of communities' air, and massive energy costs.
It's not even.
And the
it's
human
not even
and
slowing down.
environmental cost of all of these things is not only ignored, but is treated as the necessary fuel to bring about humanity's destiny. Which, for tech bros, is either to upload our consciousness to a server or go to the stars. As Associate Professor of History at SUNY Buffalo, John C. Mohawk argued in his work on how Western civilization's history of conquest often hides behind utopian ideals.
If a group expects that their utopian story will culminate in the production of a perfect world, everything they do to create or react to the conditions that will bring this about acquires enhanced importance.
Basically, if you think you are working to make a utopia, or at least arguing to people that you are, then you have the right to do anything you want to anyone to make it happen. And that's what colonialism, capitalism, and now tech billionaires have always been doing. Star Trek, in a way, justifies that same idea, that there is a natural destined path that we need to follow in order to reach the better Star Trekian future.
Oh man, this is giving me so much to think about for writing.
In an series Star Trek Enterprise, titled Dear Doctor, Himbo Captain Archer refuses to give a cure to a species dying from a planet-wide disease, ultimately coming to the conclusion that it's part of their natural development as a planetary species to die off, thereby giving the opportunity to the oppressed species on the planet a chance to rise to the top.
I've been studying their genome as well. And I've seen evidence of increasing intelligence, motor skills, linguistic abilities. Unlike the Balakians, they appear to be in the process of an evolutionary awakening.
That's not...
It may take millennia.
That's not how evolution works.
But the Mank have the potential to become the dominant species on this planet.
And that won't happen as long as the Balakians are around.
If the Mank are to flourish, they need an opportunity to survive on their own.
Well, what are you suggesting? We choose one species over the other?
I mean, we have all our existence on Earth.
Make the choice.
That's not...
Instead of, not treating oppressor versus oppressed dynamics as a zero-sum game where one has to die for the other to live, the same mindset that Israel fuels itself upon, saying that for Jews to be safe, Palestinians need to die, the episode leans into a competitive-minded misunderstanding of evolution as survival of the fittest. In reality, evolution isn't about the strongest crushing the weakest, it's about the traits that best fit an environment being favored over numerous generations.
Niches.
And cooperation
Literally
is often just as important a survival tactic as competition, if not often more so. But both colonialism and capitalism both thrive on this distorted fittest means strongest and might makes right framing. And the Dear Doctor episode itself uses all of this to lay the groundwork for the Prime Directive, the ideology of non-interference we know that the Star Trek's Federation will later adopt, framing the Prime Directive as nothing more than about protecting the natural, quote-unquote, course of evolution over time. In other words, the show justifies the creation of its in-universe ideology by presenting it as the inevitable outcome of humanity's learning to be benevolent keepers of the cosmos.
Beverly, the Prime Directive is not just a set of rules. It is a philosophy. A very correct one.
I want to believe.
History has proved again and again that whenever mankind interferes with a less developed civilization...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that quote right there. Let's go.
May be, the results are invariably disastrous.
Humanity, as well as Starfleet and the Federation, are going to be the ones that protect everyone's natural evolutions. We're the ones in charge, the gatekeepers for the destiny that everyone's going to eventually reach. Thereby, we need to come up with an enlightened ideology in order to make sure that this natural evolution is protected.
My people are going to come up with some sort of a doctrine. Something that tells us what we can and can't do out here. Should and shouldn't do.
Gotta make us think, nuh-uh, don't make me think.
But until somebody tells me that they've drafted that directive, I'm going to have to remind myself every day that we didn't come out here to play God.
Oh my
of course,
God,
Star Trek,
yes
the
we
original
did.
series makes this not just a policy of the Federation, but a scientific law with its Hodgkin's law of parallel planetary development. The in-universe excuse for why so many alien worlds look like 20th century Earth. Or, more accurately, like whatever could be shot on a cheap Western backlot.
But they are creatures of a heavily industrialized 20th century type planet, very much like Earth. An amazing example of Hodgkin's law of parallel planet development.
But embedded in that budget-saving handwave is the same worldview. All civilizations evolve in the same direction. America's.
America!
Some just late to the party. Which brings us finally back around to Musk's discussion of aliens. Because even beyond the idea that humans have been around long before writing, long before that, there were other forms of life. I mean, dinosaurs, anyone? We made at least one good movie about them.
Yep.
And 6 middling ones. I haven't seen the new Jurassic Park. Y'all tell me if it's good.
It's awful.
Life has existed on Earth for over 3.8 billion years. And in fact, opposed to what Elon Musk said, it actually emerged relatively quickly, at least on a galactic standard.
Yep.
All data that we've ever collected,
my man Neil, let's go.
History of life on Earth tells us that life began almost as soon as earthly conditions would allow it.
Yeah.
It took no more than 200 million years. That sounds like a lot, but it's not. It's just 0.2 billion years of Earth's history. Start the life clock after the period of heavy bombardment and ask, how long does it take to get the first evidence of life on Earth? 200 million years.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
To allow the formation of complex molecules in the first place.
So in actuality, life may not be rare in the cosmos at all.
I don't think it is.
There are plenty of possible explanations.
I'm sure she's about to talk about it, but real quick, like real quick. So one of the best Femi Paradox mini answers I've heard is that we're early to the party. That in the scope of the galactic scale, of the universal scale, it's just way early to the party. And that's kind of a good thing. We get more information than perhaps others would. And I'm saying just like humanity, right? let's not feed into this Western nationalism right now. I want to push against it, but I digress. we might just be early to the party. Oxygen-rich atmosphere planets might actually be the one rarity, if anything. And if that's the case and all that, and that's just the reason why we're here early, there's still going to be others out there. It's just a matter of, okay, they might just be, again, early to the party in their area. But eventually, not necessarily intelligent life like we know it, but life will propagate the entire universe overall. I just think it's just a matter of how you interpret life and what you think of it. It won't be the freaking gray aliens from Mars. It won't be the little green men. It won't be anything from Star Trek. Definitely not looking directly like us. But who knows? There may be parallels in ways certain intelligent evolutionary things go. Large heads might just be one of the common denominators. Who knows? But as an example, there was this book series back in the day that I read called Ramna? Secrets of Ramna? Oh man, it was great. Basically, gigantic colony ships came close to the solar system, and so we jump on them, and a few people like live on. Yeah, I bet. And you know, live on them, and their story goes that way. But they find an alien group on these colony ships that are basically just, think octopuses, but with, I think, 10, so 10-legged octopuses, squidish, but octopus looking. But more importantly, they didn't have like eyes, they didn't have like a mouth. I mean, they had a mouth to eat underneath, but they had like this band of an eye around their entire center body that would literally light up different colors, including colors that, goodness, the space whales made a loud sound. Jeez, oh my god.
Is hailing us.
Yeah. It's not. We just met those space whales. But yeah. To the point is they spoke to each other through color. These aliens in these books, they spoke to each other through color on their bands of their eyes. So their eyes were both seeing and communicating at the same time. We don't know what's going to happen. Other Kyrgyzstan has tried making some guesses, and they've been pretty awesome with them. But like, fuck it, we know what's out there. I can't wait to find out if we ever do. But the point is, we just may be early to the party. And again, another big thing is distance and time. We may have heard information that we are actually living in a universe that does go between big bangs and big crunches, and that would be incredibly scary and terrifyingly awesome to me. Like, I am so for it, because who knows how many times the universe has breathed in and out. Who knows? But, oh my god, if we actually do fall back into a big crunch after the universe expands to a certain frame, that would be nuts. That would be nuts. But it would also be very cool. Alright, let's expand. Can I build another? Not yet. How am I doing on Unity? We're getting there. Unity could be better. How are my planets? No. Still. Alright, we're good. You're fine. Okay. Alright. Oh, let's get this video playing again. Sorry.
For the Fermi paradox that don't just assume that we're alone. Many of which, by the way, are explored in science fiction. Maybe other alien species don't value communication. Maybe they never invented the radio. Maybe they aren't expansionists. Maybe they have nothing to say to us. I sure don't. Maybe neither of us understands the other's communications method. But none of those possible explanations fit into Musk's worldview, where life doesn't exist unless it mirrors what he sees as civilization. That's the core thing to understand here. Like how Western colonists justified seeing their colonized subjects as not full people by arguing they were primitive, Musk doesn't see alien life as possible because to him, he doesn't respect or see them as worthwhile living beings until they hit a certain bar of technology.
Gaia World, let's go.
Also connects with Star Trek.
But also, yes.
Because Star Trek is a future defined by technology. Transporters, tricorders, starships, replicators. Star Trek is a universe built on techno-optimism.
I hate transporters
where many
so
human
much.
problems can, and in many cases have, been solved by the right machine.
Hell yeah.
Want to get your favorite sushi? Order it on the replicator. Want to jump across the planet and visit your favorite aunt? Just hop in the transporter. Want to watch some, porn? Hop on the deck. But in Star Trek lore, the most important piece of technology was its faster-than-light warp drive. Humanity's greatest leap in the universe of Star Trek came when Zefram Cochrane, the creator of warp drive, made his first warp flight, because it led directly to first contact with the Vulcans and set us, humanity, on the path towards becoming and joining and creating the Federation.
That's true.
From then on,
canonically,
warp became codified as the benchmark for a civilization's maturity. The moment a society discovers warp drive, they're considered ready to join the interstellar community. Until then, they're considered a pre-warp civilization.
Yeah, I
a pre-warp civilization at an early stage
I don't like this classification. I haven't for a while.
of industrial development.
And any pre-warp civilization needs to be left alone under the Prime Directive so as not to contaminate their, as we discussed, natural development.
Pre-warp, so the non-interference directive means we can't warn them. Not that there's anything we could do anyway.
But the word pre-warp mirrors the concept of prehistory. It carries an assumption of inevitability, as if every single civilization follows the same fixed path towards progress, measured only by technological advancement and eventually creating the warp drive. It leaves no room for the possibility that a society might be ready to meet alien life before developing warp, or might choose never to develop warp at all, focusing instead on other pursuits beyond the technological. Or hell, even getting faster than light travel in another way beyond warp, which we see is quite possible through numerous non-warp technologies throughout Star Trek. But baked into the very code of the Federation is this idea that we will hit this technological benchmarker. And a very similar idea exists for tech billionaires. Because the idea to them that certain technologies aren't inevitable is, in the words of one Ferengi actor, inconceivable. As Mark Anderson argues in his techno-optimistic manifesto, technology is the thing that will take us on our manifest destiny. Not into the frontier of the American West, but now into the final frontier of the stars.
The only perpetual source of growth is technology. In fact, technology, new knowledge, new tools, what the Greeks called techno, has always been the main source of growth and perhaps the only cause of growth. As technology made both population growth and natural resource utilization possible, we believe technology is a lever on the world.
Yeah,
the
I'm
way
gonna bite myself
to make
for a moment.
more with less. We believe this is the story of the material development of our civilization. This is why we are not... Oh my God, this is such a self-important dickhead. This is why we are not still living in mud huts, eking out a meager survival and waiting for nature to kill us. We believe the natural human drive to make things, to gain territory, to explore the unknown can be channeled productively into building technology. We believe this is why our descendants will live in the stars.
Couldn't it be the other way around?
They'll have to, you piece of shit. You're burning the planet.
For real. Oh my God.
Anderson's essay argues that most of humanity's big problems have already been solved through technology throughout our history, especially technology without guardrails, and that we should do everything possible to accelerate its development. His essay is meant to function as a manifesto for effective accelerationism, a philosophical movement that takes an explicitly pro-technology stance, believing that unrestricted technological progress is the solution to everything from war and climate change to poverty itself. Like many utopian visions, as we've discussed, it assumes that anything is justified in the pursuit of its creation. If technology then can ensure human survival and let us spread our consciousness across the stars, then no limit is too great in order to break to get there. Supporters of this ideology often lean on physics-based scientific arguments, like those from physicist and former research scientist at Georgia Tech, Jeremy England, who offers a kind of Darwinism for the tech bro mindset. England argues that life itself emerges as a way to increase entropy.
I'm an agent of chaos.
Entropy, by the way, in physics is the one universal constant that always rises and will eventually lead to the heat death of the universe.
Yep.
Thereby, England argues that life is therefore destined to expand
Stellaris!
across the
Look! Oh my
cosmos
God!
in
Game
order
in game!
to fulfill that purpose of increasing entropy
That was
and
great.
leading to the end of the universe eventually after millions and billions and trillions of years.
Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder.
And as we've seen with Elon Musk, many tech leaders assume that humanity is the only civilization capable of carrying out this mission of spreading life to the stars. It then becomes, in their eyes, our manifest destiny to colonize the stars. Because if we, humanity, doesn't, no one else will fulfill the universe's ultimate destiny to end up increasing entropy and lead to the heat death of the universe. And under this ideology, the two biggest drivers for fulfilling this so-called destiny are not only technology, but specifically maximizing
Yeah, I know, right? It's
artificial intelligence and humanity's energy potential, because they believe that both of those things will be the thing that launch humanity to the next level of civilization and eventually out into the stars. If all of this seems to you to have a sort of religious, pseudoscientific edge to it, you're not wrong.
Right?
Now, not every Silicon Valley CEO treats all of this ideology as literal holy scripture, but most still preach from the same gospel. Take OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, the guy who is literally building ChatGPT, while also at the same time often calling for a massive increase in global energy production.
Energy is an area I've been particularly interested in. I'm much less interested in the sort of things that like compete with subsidies to be barely as cheap as oil or natural gas. But if we can really figure out a way to make energy for a penny a kilowatt, that would be transformational.
What?
And
solar.
I think that's something that people don't work hard enough on.
Oh, F you.
ChatGPT itself is using 10 times as much energy as Google, and more than some entire countries. One report even found that by 2030, data centers will consume 20% of Europe's newly generated renewable energy, mostly to fuel our AI-generated bubble. They're basically burning through fossil fuels and siphoning off renewables, all justified by the promise of a future AI-driven human utopia. The logic goes, it's fine to exploit and ravage resources now because one day this technology will save and uplift all of us. It's still just colonial logic, just with better graphics. And it's by no means a coincidence, by the way, that Jeremy England is an open and proud Zionist, and himself has openly advocated for the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, and in 2024 justified the ongoing genocide in Gaza by saying Zionists had the right to control the land of Israel because it was Jews' destiny. So you can see an easy connection between that mindset to the techno-utopian belief that humanity has the same destiny to dominate space. The parallel is quite clear. The same logic that justifies seizing land and controlling people here on Earth is being projected into our visions of the future with technology as
oh my god, didn't even get started. Season 2 of Picard is so awful. Oh.
But this brings me back again
to
Star Trek,
awful.
because why are they so particularly focused on Star Trek? Because Star Trek isn't TechBro's only pull for a technological aesthetic. Just look at Tesla's Cybertruck. It's a stainless steel wedge that seems ripped right from a cyberpunk dystopia like Minority Report or Blade Runner. In fact, Tesla was even accused in a lawsuit of feeding stills from Blade Runner 2049 into an MLM image generator in order to help promote the Cybertruck. Musk argued that the reason that he made the Cybertruck look this way was because he was making the future look like the future. But it's this exact hyper-focus on trying to copy the aesthetic of what they think the future looks like based on science fiction that they like that explains why Star Trek in particular gets so much of their focus. They are so specifically focused on Star Trek when it comes to technology because it actually already shaped tech and space culture today.
Has!
Star Trek inspired flip phones, tablets, and voice assistants.
Tea Earl Grey, hot.
Padadas are just iPads without Bluetooth. Martin Cooper, inventor of the handheld cell phone, himself credits the communicator as inspiration.
There's Captain Kirk talking on his communicator. Talking! With no dialing. That was not a fantasy to us, although to the rest of the world it was. But to me, that was an objective.
But the reason for this, however, is that Star Trek gave generations of engineers and scientists an aspirational dream. The same engineers and scientists whose work these billionaires profit off of by buying them up, slapping their name on it, and saying they helped make it. In 1967, just a few months after the original series started airing, Leonard Nimoy was invited to the National Space Club's Goddard Memorial Dinner, an event that was often attended by the very people who helped shape the future of spaceflight in the United States. And after attending the dinner, he wrote to Gene Roddenberry.
I do not overstate the fact when I tell you that the interest in the show is so intense that it would almost seem they feel we are a dramatization of the future of their space program.
And that belief by many scientists and engineers has only deepened over
disgusting.
time. Yet Star Trek has long paired its vision of technological advancement alongside the promise of a more enlightened social utopia.
Hey Rain, if you're around, can you remove
Star
that
Trek
message?
has always preached that the Federation has moved beyond structural racism and homophobia, for example. Citizens are shown to have full political freedom, total economic security, and free to develop his or her talents without material worry. We see it with things like Captain Sisko's father, who runs his Creole kitchen without fretting about rent or payroll, just perfecting his gumbo. But underneath the surface, this liberation is framed as the natural endpoint of capitalism's arc, not a rejection of it. and argued that that is in large part because of technology. Throughout the 1980s, Reagan and Thatcher argued that capitalism's uplifting of everybody was ultimately not only moral, but would eventually lead to us having a more utopian state where everyone was equal.
So the whole of the capitalist society is a moral basis. The basis is that the individual is here to develop his or her talents. He cannot do that without both political freedom and economic freedom. The only kind of society under which you can do that is a capitalist society.
No.
To be free, you have to be capitalist.
Thus, as a result, neoliberalism frames social justice, whether it be queer liberation, civil rights, racial equality, as part of the automatic, preordained timeline of capitalism. That if we're all equal to be rich, we'll all end up equally free. A long arc of history that naturally bends towards justice through perpetual growth. No protest needed, just slow, polite evolution. And thus it frames people who speak up and protest against injustice as disruptive or uncivil to the natural order of things. The assumption is, just wait your turn, trust the system, it'll work out eventually, stop being so disruptive. It ignores that change doesn't happen because people wait, it happens because they fight.
Correct.
But Star Trek, though, presents a future where all of that struggle within human society is already behind us. So as a result, neoliberals, whether they be Reaganites or techno-oligarchs alike, can look back at Star Trek's social advancements through its fictions, its interracial casts, its occasional queer inclusivity, and moments when women and BIPOC held command, as instead proof of the inevitable long arc of justice in history, erasing the actual labor and resistance that forced those changes into being for marginalized groups in the first place. Indeed, if you look at Star Trek this way, it mirrors the conservative framing of things like slavery's end, where many conservatives argue that white people were the ones who eliminated it first, when in reality it was numerous people in slavery who fought back against it, such as the Haitians, who led one of the first modern successful revolts against slavery. But this conservative narrative recasts emancipation as a benevolent gift from the enslavers.
White people were the first to formally put an end to slavery. In 1833, Britain was the first country in the history of the world to pass a Slavery Abolition Act.
Conservatives frame slavery as an unfortunate but necessary evil in the so-called long arc of history.
It was so common that Aristotle simply considered it natural.
Such an awful person.
The slave master model was just how the world operated in the great philosopher's day.
Shield your eyes from the evil.
Uplifted black people by giving them useful skills, technology, and entry into Western civilization. A supposed gift that ripped them from the savage African continent and the culture that they should be grateful to abandon. All so they could assimilate into the clearly better and frankly inevitable Western culture.
We embraced the patriotic spirit that holds all men are created equal, the patriotic spirit that is our real heritage.
My God.
And the race hustlers would soon be out of business.
Recasting exploitation as benevolence because it supposedly sped up an inevitable outcome. Suffering repackaged as progress for some greater good that was never for those who endured the brutality inflicted in order to make it possible. Similarly, tech billionaires like Mark Anderson and neoliberals insist that such a better future can only emerge from the exploitation of systems like capitalism, justifying and framing exploitation itself as the engine of progress.
Goated start though for my Stellaris
And likewise,
game, though, right?
figures like
Look
Musk and Bezos read the technological
make sure this little
innovations
area here is nice and safe, but the
inspired
rest,
by
my
Star
gosh.
Trek in the same way. To them, these developments aren't the result of people imagining a better future and working to make it real and seeing Star Trek as the thing that inspired them to do so. Instead, they're signposts along a natural preordained road of technological progress.
It's not a tech
that Star
tree.
Trek is
It's just
somehow
not.
preordaining and mirroring. Because to their minds, Star Trek is the thing that most looks like what they think the future will inevitably be. Take Sam Altman, for example, who's openly said he's trying to build the world in Star Trek because to him, it was obviously where we were headed.
Obviously.
That was already a time where all contemporary sci-fi was pretty dystopic, but the older stuff, the older Star Trek episodes, those were still like kind of optimistic and cool, and you sort of like saw how AI was going to be great and kind of how that was obviously the future.
Compare how someone like Sam Altman says Star Trek was obviously
nice, got her
future,
back, let's go.
and how the man who invented the cell phone describes it as an objective.
It was not a fantasy to us, although to the rest of the world it was. But to me, that was an objective.
That man was reaching forward, trying to build something better because fiction inspired him.
Oh, my heart.
Altman, by contrast, sees it as something preordained, already written into the fabric of time. So all that's left is to monetize it. That difference is subtle, but absolutely fundamental. One worldview treats science fiction as a spark that ignites imagination and invention. The other treats it as prophecy that guarantees profit and, more importantly, power and legacy.
Nice.
In this telling, Star Trek stops being aspirational fiction that inspired people to create the future and instead becomes prophecy. And if it is the inevitable future, then they're the smart ones for trying to be the ones to slap their name on that future and get credit for it.
Boo!
That's why so many of these guys are so comfortable with...
That is one of the other things I want to pull away from when it comes to Star Trek with my own fictional work, is the meritocracy is so westernized. And that is a big issue. Because if you're like, there's a character in Lower Decks that talks even about like, once you get to Admiral, it's hard to like, you know, move past that, and you get like pigeonholed into just be the Admiral, so you better come up with something amazing for the Starfleet. And honestly, that was a weirdly realistic hook for Star Trek. Freaking Lower Decks, season 4? Yeah, season 4. Okay, so to the point is this. It needs to be about not you getting your name in the history book, narcissist. It's about how you can help others have names in the future. It's about how you can help progress society forward because you are a part of it, not because you are a thing that makes it. You are a part of it, and be proud of it, because this world would be lesser without you in it. And here we have a chance to be a better world altogether. The meritocracy has to come from within. The call has to come from within the house. It can't be this outsiding drive that makes you feel special. Because we're all special. Or perhaps none of us are. And the sooner we come to that conclusion and we just get to be better for each other as well as everything and everyone. The animals that we have even taken advantage of, the poor cattle and pigs and chickens and everything else. Yes. All of it. Everyone. To a better. Anyway, back to the video.
Star Trek's own narrative shortcut around capitalism. Because Star Trek does sidestep the messy politics of ending capitalism. Things like, you know, a potential workers' revolution, by instead hand-waving at a vaguely undefined World War III, a catastrophe so great humanity had to rebuild afterwards.
Having endured a catastrophic world war, Earth's governments came to this city for the purpose of creating a just and lasting peace among nations.
We never really learn what World War III was about. We get some talk about eugenics. Strange New Worlds even sluttily gestures at the January 6th riot by Donald Trump.
Right, that was
crazy.
Also
started with a fight for freedoms. We called it the Second Civil War, then the Eugenics War, and finally, just World War III.
But it never exactly tells us what the fuck happened to cause that conflict.
Yeah, you can't blame
as a result,
Khan every time.
The Federation that emerges afterwards is a sort of fully formed Western neoliberal democracy in space, carrying all of the same DNA. Because we never really had to question what would have changed between now and then. Quite literally, Star Trek pulled a Mark Fisher before Mark Fisher.
They sure did!
It imagined the end of the world before the end of capitalism. And so too do today's billionaires, only they're preparing for it.
Disgusting. They so
has
are.
Quietly become
Oh, great use of
the
Shaun
escape
of the Dead.
destination for many of America's elite. Peter Thiel, co-founder of PayPal and proud owner of a data mining company literally named after Sauron's evil CCTV or Palantir, even secured himself a passport there just in case the Mordor of his own making gets too hot and he needs to bail, retreating to play out his own personal scouring of the Shire. Other billionaires are buying up remote farmland or commissioning luxury bunkers that make Bond villain layers look modest.
I love
In December
that neighbors are friendly.
2023, Wired
Let's
even reported that Mark Zuckerberg was building a $270 million Hawaiian compound on Kauai, complete with 2 mansions linked by a tunnel to a 50,000 square foot underground shelter. The bunker has its own energy and food supply, a concrete-filled blast door, and an escape hatch. It's all basically Fallout DLC and cosplay for the ultra-rich. The goal isn't to preserve the world, it's to survive the end of it and emerge as the technocratic visionaries who rebuild it in their image.
Disgusting.
Because they can't foresee any other outcome. As media theorist Douglas Rushkoff puts it,
the billionaires understand that they're playing a dangerous game. They are running out of room to externalize the damage of the way that their companies operate. The most powerful people in the world see themselves as utterly incapable of actually creating a future in which everything's gonna be okay.
they imagine the end of the world before the end of capitalism because capitalism is a death drive, consuming everything and everyone. If we do follow capitalism, this is the inevitability. And they can't think of any other worldview or possibility beyond capitalism. Thus, they prepare for its end and the eventual Star Trek future that they know will come after it.
They're so delusional.
I mean, Sam Altman, sarcastically, said he believes that his product will end the world. But, you know, in the meantime, companies are going to do great work, whisper, profit off of you so they can build the next apocalypse bunkers.
You know, I think AI will probably, like, most likely sort of lead to the end of the world, but in the meantime, there will be great companies created.
There'll be great companies. The stockholders will be so happy.
That's not concerning at all to hear from him.
Everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
Their fantasy is to pop out after the inevitable end of the world caused by their own capitalist policies as our Zephyrin Cochrane godlike visionary figures ready to build a new society and lead humanity to its predetermined destiny. While in reality, using the bodies of the working class and women and their children to build that future. Like Musk telling the mother of one of his children that he needs to have as many babies as possible with women surrogates in order to make a future of mostly white people.
To reach Legion level before the apocalypse, we will need to use surrogates.
For example,
that was so awful to read. That was so awful.
Everyone
Fucking
I know
Elon Musk
we
is the
have
worst.
a few years max until the value of labor totally collapses and capital accretes to owners on a runway loop. Basically, Marx's worst nightmare / fantasy. This is the permanent underclass thing, and everyone I know subscribes to it.
Here he's pointing out the current tech trend towards a completely disenfranchised workforce, people pushed out of jobs by things like so-called AI. And Mark Anderson responded to this by saying,
this necessarily would mean productivity growth to the moon.
Prices
of goods and services collapse. Consumer utopia for pennies per day.
Good God.
What the fuck?
Right.
Nice use of like dropping the crypto nonsense in there with the to the moon.
Holy crap! I need to get zooted after reading that.
That's the most tech-bro thing in the world. What it is that I do is literally the most important thing that is happening or ever has happened.
I shouldn't do ableism so
Christ.
They're
He's
so
essentially
special.
arguing that we all shouldn't be worried because the future will be just so cheap for the billionaires that they'll support everyone out of the goodness of their heart, handing out freebies like gods.
If that was true, they would have already done it.
It's why they're the ones bankrolling and helping to propagandize the so-called abundance movement, which has started to gain more mainstream appeal after it was championed by abundance book writers Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson. And it's now being floated as the shiny new ideology of the Democratic Party in the wake of Trumpist fascism. It's an ideology not about building solidarity with working people or uplifting immigrants or protecting marginalized communities. And it's not even about seriously fighting fascist capture of our institutions.
Right.
No, it's about blaming progressive policies and social movements as having been a complete distraction and obstacles to growth.
You gotta
growth
love it.
Being the only important thing.
Sometimes government has to get out of the way, like in housing. Sometimes it has to take a central role, like in creating markets or organizing resources for technologies that do not yet exist and that we need, and that are too risky for markets to fund.
The story goes that regulatory frameworks in liberal cities that were meant to safeguard equity and protect the vulnerable really were the problem because they distracted from actual economic innovation. Instead, we should strip those things away and just let tech companies do the things, remove regulations, and wait for the magic of innovation to uplift us all. The problem was Kamala was for they, them, and not Kamala's more of the same mentality. But abundance ideology, which is heavily bought into by many of the elite in Silicon Valley, says it's time to get back to serious business of economics and efficiency, handing the keys to the same oligarchs who built the mess in the first place.
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is techno-optimism yet again, skeptical of government and ultimately about turning the levers of control over to the oligarchs. What's being sold here is just Reagan-era trickle-down economics that's been rebooted for the techno-bro age, repackaged for Democrats who now function as little more than a right-wing neoliberal party in Reagan's image. And just like in the 80s, it's a con. It hands CEOs the mantle of visionary saviors yet again, promising that if we just let them run the show, they'll build us the Star Trek future. Musk, Altman, Anderson, they swear they'll deliver abundance so complete we won't even need universal basic income. Instead, as Musk claims, they'll give us something even better, universal high income. It'll all just trickle down to us yet again, so we can all go open our Cisco's Creole kitchens. Just trust them, just hand them the keys. That's the real reason tech billionaires love Star Trek. They see themselves as its Zephyrin Cochrane.
Oh, Superstorm.
He's
oh, no.
the brilliant scientist who, in the ashes of World War III, built the first warp ship, accidentally kickstarting humanity's utopian future and cementing himself as one of history's great men. Then, in 1960s, the original series, we learned he cheated death thanks to his immortal space girlfriend who keeps him young and vigorous for... well, let's just say the warp core wasn't the only thing she was trying to keep warmed up.
Bow chicka bow wow.
Very beautiful.
Part of me understands, part does not, but it pleases me.
I could explain many things.
Sex.
Take you apart.
You give the world its shiny new future, get credit for it, and then you spend the rest of your time hanging out in your private utopia with your hot space partner who keeps you eternally young. Woo! You're the visionary genius at the center of history, eternally rewarded in some utopian heaven, untouched by the mess that everyone else still has to live in because you were the one that caused us all to have the rapture. This is why billionaire Peter Thiel has been out there lately giving a 4-part lecture series about the Antichrist in San Francisco. No, I am not kidding about that.
No words.
God, I wish I had been able to get a ticket to that show. But he doesn't describe the Antichrist as a person, but as a global authoritarian system that, quote, creates peace by crushing democracy and freedom. Basically what we're seeing with Trump right now. And his claim is that the only alternative that we can see right now for the Antichrist is Armageddon, the collapse of society through war, a looming World War III. Where have I heard that before? And Peter Thiel's answer to Armageddon and the Antichrist is about finding balance between the two, not through solidarity or overthrowing these systems of power that leads to these choices, but some symbolic, quote, restraining force that he argues comes from Paul's New Testament second letter to the Colossians. Why do all of these assholes sound like they're trying to roleplay Sephiroth?
The way the Antichrist would take over the world is you talk about Armageddon nonstop. You talk about existential risk nonstop, and this is what you need to regulate.
Because under all of their biblical cosplay, it's the same hero's journey bullshit that we've been fed for decades.
Right.
And
right,
that
and I
our
have to
choices
admit that.
are now only between embracing fascism or endless hyper-capitalism that will accelerate us into World War III.
I swear, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be imperialistic and capitalist, or capitalist and imperial. It doesn't have to be Wayland Corp. It doesn't have to be this way.
And Thiel's only solution is a techno-rapture of oligarch bunkers, floating cities, off-Earth colonies, or survival hatches to survive the fall of society. And we're supposed to accept these techno-oligarchs as our reluctant mythic heroes, saving a chosen few while the rest of the world burns. Jesus fucking Christ.
I swear.
But in truth, Kirk and Cochrane are not the only so-called visionary risk-taker great men Star Trek has. In fact, they weren't even the first. The first great man of Star Trek, the man who tried to write himself into that future, actually says a lot about how better futures are actually built. As well as how even the creator of Star
may have
Trek
been a weird, horny old guy.
Misunderstand the very future that he was selling. Infinite diversity in infinite combinations, IDIC, is one of Star Trek's most beautiful ideas. It's defining one. It's the Vulcan belief that the greatest beauty comes from the meeting of the most unexpected differences. That every life form, culture, and perspective has something to contribute.
To
that
offer,
humanity itself won't evolve until we learn to take delight in the differences of others and life forms.
Oh, and there's
it's a
so much
statement
beauty
that
out
says that we can only grow if we stand against bigotry and celebrate difference. It was also an ideology created to sell merchandise.
I mean,
what is it that you do here? Merchandising.
IDIC first appeared in the third season 1969 nice original series episode, Is There in Truth No Beauty? By this point in the series, Gene Roddenberry had largely walked away from Star Trek after NBC buried the show in a Friday night death slot, leaving producer Fred Freiberger, who was nicknamed the show killer at that point, in charge of the series. Spock actor Leonard Nimoy, always protective of his character's integrity, disliked one, quote,
long and frankly dull conversation.
Oh no.
Between Spock and another character about their philosophies. And so Nimoy went to Freiberger to ask him to fix it, and ultimately was ignored. So instead, Nimoy went and called Roddenberry directly, who agreed that the scene was weak and promised a rewrite. Nimoy got the pages a few days later, and he felt that they greatly improved the scene. But now the scene highlighted Spock wearing a very specific ornate medallion that was there to express Spock's belief in IDIC. And Roddenberry added that medallion because he ultimately planned to sell replicas of it through his mail order company, Lincoln Enterprises.
Love it.
Certainly, I was all in favor of the philosophy behind the IDIC, but not the fact that Gene wanted me to wear the medallion because he wanted to sell them. Where the scene had been problematic creatively for me, it was now problematic ethically.
Understandable.
Roddenberry knew that Star Trek probably wasn't going to have another season, but that it was also incredibly popular with fans, and so was setting himself up to make a nice little nest egg on the back of its popularity once it was gone. From the very start,
I don't blame
Star Trek has been both
considering
art
the world we live in
and commodity.
It is.
An idealistic vision of the future and a business. After the original series was canceled, Roddenberry himself saw how powerful the fandom around Star Trek was becoming, loving its vision of that hopeful, optimistic future. Fans created conventions, fanzines, and a growing mythology around the importance of the message of what the series had to say. And people wanted to meet the creator of this series. And so, Gene Roddenberry started doing speaking tours. And during them, he started to double down on the idea that he was the legendary Great Bird of the Galaxy. That he was the sole visionary and person who created Star Trek's ideas of a better future.
Shit,
and
Lucille Ball has
so,
more about
he
this.
quietly erased many of the collaborators that helped make Star Trek what it was, like producer Herb Soule, or story editor Dorothy Fontana, or producer Gene L. Kuhn, all of whom helped in their own unique way contribute to much of the philosophy of what Star Trek ultimately became. For example, episodes like Devil in the Dark, which was probably the very first episode of Star Trek to specifically talk about seeing other life forms that are different from us as just as equally valid as life forms as we are, was written by Gene Kuhn in a cocaine-fueled haze over 3 days. Cocaine, the driver of some of Hollywood's best stories.
Cocaine.
Roddenberry often took ideas that were created by other people and rebranded them as his own. And I did a whole video on this, if you want receipts, but long and short, Roddenberry tried to sell himself as the sole visionary of Star Trek.
Well, that's just not right.
Wise, when we grow out of this present childhood, we'll learn that quite the loveliest statement in the world is, I disagree with you. And quite the loveliest answer is, wonderful. Please tell me how. I think there is one other thing that was missed by the networks in the studios. Star Trek was a statement, again, as every fan realized, a statement of affection and optimism about living things in general and about humanity in particular.
And so, when Star Trek The Next Generation launched, Roddenberry didn't see it as just another Trek show that he could make for TV. It was his chance to showcase his utopia finally made real. Humanity in this show was free from interpersonal conflict, didn't even grieve death, and had already reached near perfection. The Federation wasn't striving for improvement anymore, it was the end state. Even Captain Picard was, to Roddenberry, supposed to be that John Wayne type figure, the American hero with no flaws, ignoring all the flaws and racism of John Wayne's actual characters.
That's
as
hilarious.
Well as the racism of the
well, that gives me new context when watching Next Generation this weekend.
Gene looked me
because we are definitely doing it again on Saturday.
Jean-Luc Picard is John Wayne.
Amazing.
And I said, well, hold it. Are you talking about the public image of John Wayne? Because I got to tell you, I know John Wayne films, and John Wayne has played a lot of different roles. In The Quiet Man, he killed a man in the boxing ring. He doesn't want to fight anymore. I mean, he's played characters who had doubts, who in The Searchers, he was racist. He was, So what John Wayne are you talking about? And he said he's John Wayne. He never doubts himself. He has no fear. I'm going.
What the fuck?
That's not good.
Much like how Teslas
Right?
idealized the character of Captain Kirk, Gene idealized John Wayne's character
I hate
to
it.
create a sterilized, nostalgic, hegemonically masculine image of the past that he wanted to see himself within.
Of
It
course.
ignored the fact that most of the stories that John Wayne's character was built out of were themselves deeply racist towards many indigenous Americans, instead just recasting John Wayne as this masculine American man going out into the final frontier. All of this made Star Trek a nightmare for writers because they struggled to tell stories without conflict. It didn't feel human to them. But for Roddenberry, the show was less about giving...
Again, actually, I like that because that is actually why I like The Orville. Please, if you enjoy Star Trek, check out The Orville because it's basically Star Trek with the character flaws built into the characters like they should have been from the Next Generation onward. Thank God for Cisco and Janeway, being who they were. Honestly, both those shows pulled back from that. I'm not saying thank you, Rick Berman, but thank you, Rick Berman, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. You're a misogynistic creep, but you had some good stories and you had some good points. But maybe she'll talk about that. But oh my goodness, it definitely comes down to the Orville being at this point. The Orville is a better Next Generation in heart, if not spirit, comparatively to what New Trek is, by far. That said, it's not better than old school Trek for what it was when it came out. Oh god, not even. But for real, please go check out the Orville. It's delightful. All right, let me see. Right, okay, and video.
Human drama, and more about broadcasting his post-capitalist utopian ideal. Behind
Space
the scenes,
communism.
he fought constantly to keep his name on everything, pushing out Star Trek the original series writing veterans like DC Fontana and
that
David
makes me so
Gerrold to
sad.
ensure that it stayed his future. Much of the writing suffered. Many people consider season 1 of The Next Generation to be one of the worst in Star Trek's entire run, but that ultimately didn't matter. What mattered was the vision. As Yvonne Fern, the wife of then studio executive Herb Soule, and who herself interviewed Roddenberry extensively in the months leading up to his death, described him.
Nice.
Gene Roddenberry did not believe in time. He never spoke of the future in the future tense. The future is, not will be. It was present within him.
Oh,
Roddenberry
that's
saw
kind of
himself
nice.
not just as a writer, but as someone who already living in that perfect future. All
I
he
wish.
had to do was make us believe
Galaxy Quest.
his future was true. And once we believed that, the future would stop being fiction and start arcing inevitably towards becoming his.
Oh, I
And that's
like
what
this.
all of
I
these
like this.
men, be they Roddenberry or Bezos or Musk, who have these
That sticker
utopian
is the shit,
visions
Megan.
ultimately
Fuck yeah.
want to make their perfect ordered utopias that they believe that they already live within become the future by wrestling everyone else that doesn't see their vision and who are just less enlightened people, and force everyone around them to try to help make that vision possible and erase anyone else who doesn't fit into it. But to bring up this whole story with Roddenberry, not just to make that comparison, but to also draw attention to another one. Because Roddenberry, strangely enough, had a morbid fascination with fascism. And I don't say that jokingly. If you actually look into a lot of the people
Now
who
this
knew
I know a little
Roddenberry,
bit.
it constantly comes up. Susan Sackett, Gene Roddenberry's longtime assistant, remembered that.
Gene was fascinated by World War II and anything related to Hitler. We spent long hours discussing his fascination.
I don't understand
Whenever I mentioned how evil
just-
I thought Hitler was, Gene would disagree. But it is our interpretation of these actions that labels them evil. Certainly Hitler didn't think he was doing evil. He thought what he did was for the good of his country.
Yvonne Fern also recalled having similar conversations with Gene Roddenberry in his final few months. Yet, according to Fern,
what he admires is determination and industry and certain efficiencies that were introduced into Germany during the Third Reich. He admires the fierceness and focus with which an almost impossible task of recreating something devastated, almost dead,
This is where
is
Gene loses
successfully
me.
executed in the creation of something strong. One of the hallmarks of his thinking is to separate, to see something good embedded in an evil he once said he was happy to fight. He separates the motivations
Bizarre.
from the result, and ends up musing about a system that, if it were not designed to obliterate freedom, would facilitate it beyond imagining.
I
Roddenberry didn't
can't.
think that Hitler was some misunderstood genius. Nor, by the way, am I calling him a fascist, so don't worry about having to put that comment down below. But he was also seduced by the architecture of their vision. One unified dream imposed through absolute conviction and power, reshaping the world around it to make a utopia. Everyone marching in lockstep towards a single future. Everyone already having a clearly defined role, hell, even having color-coded uniforms. But fascism is antithetical to Gene Roddenberry's own ideas of celebrating difference. Fascism is about explicitly trying to destroy difference so everyone fits into the singular structure that fascism itself is trying to build. And that's the very tension that defines not only Roddenberry and makes him such an interesting
I noticed that too.
but also Star Trek itself. His insistence that one could somehow extract the efficiency of the Nazi state from its genocidal core portrays a failure to understand how fascism functions in two specific ways. Firstly, that efficiency existed purely in Nazi propaganda and
totally made up.
Pure. And secondly, that a fascist state requires enemies to define itself.
The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans.
Yeah,
they're not humans.
fuck
They're
this
animals.
man.
It
Fuck
requires
this
hero
ghoul.
and men to grind themselves up for the state fighting these enemies, just as colonialism grinds up slaves and capitalism grinds up the worker, telling them all that they're heroes who should believe in the greater ideals of the nation, the country, or the company. Roddenberry didn't want fascism's horrors, but he was intrigued by the propaganda of one unified dream, imposed with conviction by a singular visionary who reshapes reality and who could pull all of humanity.
No, that's not how.
He believed it with an almost religious sense, wanting to birth an inevitable future utopia. And that's what heck billionaires want too. Not to be Star Trek, not even to create Star Trek, but to be Gene Roddenberry, the man who is the future, the man whose name defines the future. It's why Elon Musk can give a Nazi salute at Trump's inauguration and seconds later talk about Mars as if he's offering us a hopeful future. The gesture and the dream are part of the same story, a future where these men get to decide who lives in it and what it looks like. That's all that matters to them. How we get there does not.
Thank you.
God, I hate him so much.
My heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured. Thanks to
Disgusting.
you. And we're gonna take Doge to Mars. I mean, can you imagine how awesome it will be to have American astronauts plant the flag on another planet for the first time?
So gross. What is that fake? Oh God, his accent's the worst.
How inspiring would that be? You know, there's always problems in life. You know, there's this problem, solve that problem. But you know, there need to be things that inspire you. There need to be things that make you glad to wake up in the morning and say, I'm looking forward to the future.
All right, who do we
If you're
find?
building utopia, anything is justified, right?
Anything.
That's the lie they whisper to themselves as
Yep.
they toss us onto the goddamn pyre.
Yep.
Our bodies just jet fuel for their rockets of lies. Trans people shoved through legislatures, stripped of healthcare, forced into closets, beaten until our names are written in blood. Black trans women murdered while the world scrolls past. Children driven to suicide because adults would rather legislate their deaths than admit they exist as themselves.
Holy shit, yes.
And Palestinians are burned under rubble, their lives traded for some empire's fantasy of order.
God,
Disabled
talking
people
about that-
left to
oh my
rot,
God.
their survival deemed too expensive for a future that only values those who can be efficient for it. Every day, someone else is declared unworthy of tomorrow. Their perfect world only works if we burn alive to make it run. And all the rest are just sentenced to toil away and build their gleaming phallic monuments they call rockets. Towering symbols of conquest aimed at a tomorrow that
This is
only
getting awesomely
exists
dark.
to escape the hell they've made for all of us. They see tomorrow the way they see everything else, as something they can thrust into, as if they're claiming it, proving they can penetrate the universe and leave their mark. Never a chance to connect, to see, to know someone else. Every launch, every explosion of fire and smoke is just another
get rid of us for the
performance
holodecks
of
for
some
sure.
domination fetish. A desperate insistence that they can fuck their way into eternity while the rest of us are left smoldering in the ash.
Oh my god! Damn!
All of this is why, ironically and likely unintentionally, Elon Musk's first mention in Star Trek Discovery is perfect. The character who name drops him turns out to be a fascist from the Mirror Universe who is trying to become emperor.
Wait, I'm gonna let her talk about this, but I have to admit, this is one of the funniest things to happen now ever. Like it's one of those things where you almost want to be like, wait, he said that? That should have been a tell that he was from the Mirror Universe. But I digress. This is great.
First, he turns out to be a Discovery is.
By the way, fuck Discovery. I hate
the
it.
character who name drops him turns out to be a fascist from the Mirror Universe who is trying to become emperor. Of course, he'd remember Elon Musk as a heroic visionary. He even invokes Musk's name to insult Paul Stamets, a gay scientist who is defending the ethical use of science, and instead paints Stamets as selfish.
How do you want to be remembered in history? Alongside Wright brothers, Elon Musk, Zefram Cochrane? Or as a failed fungus expert? A selfish little man who put the survival of his own ego before the lives of others.
That's exactly how fascists who want to build their utopia see the world. Anyone who challenges progress as they define it, whether it be by rejecting a heteronormative patriarchal order that they are trying to build up, or by refusing technology for technology's sake, is a selfish obstacle stopping their destiny and must be mocked or eliminated.
Yeah.
There's actually, as there generally is, a perfect Star Trek episode for this type of thinking, and it appears in the series Deep Space Nine.
Let's go!
I think the episode is brilliant in how well it understands how capitalist visionaries see time and the future. In the pilot episode of Deep Space Nine, Sisko meets the Prophets, aliens who exist outside of time, and they can't grasp why linear beings like us value the idea of the future. So Sisko explains it through baseball. You don't know what the next pitch will bring, and that's kind of the whole point of why we enjoy the game in the first place.
In fact, the game wouldn't be worth playing if we knew what was going to happen.
You value your ignorance of what is to come?
That may be the most important thing to understand about humans. It is the unknown that defines our existence.
I love that line.
Searching, not just for answers to our questions, but for new questions. We are explorers.
Yeah.
We explore our lives, day by day. And we explore the galaxy, trying to expand the boundaries of our knowledge. And that is why I am here. Not to conquer you with weapons or with ideas, but to coexist and learn.
The joy of being human is much the same way. It's in uncertainty, in becoming, in change. It's a beautiful encapsulation of Star Trek's ethos. Our future isn't defined by already knowing the ending. It's defined by the process of becoming, by the growth we achieve in the act of trying to reach for something better.
I'm gonna cry.
And yet, power and capitalism hates that. Uncertainty is bad for quarterly reports. If you can't predict the future, you can't invest in it, leverage it, or sell it back to the people at a markup. Which brings us to the aforementioned episode of Deep Space Nine, Profit Motive. In the episode, Grand Nagus Zek, the leader of the capitalistic society of the Ferengi, decides to visit the Prophets himself so he can ask them about the future so that he can ultimately profit from it. If he can know tomorrow's market before anyone else can, he can win and force his version of the future where he continues to maintain his position as the one in charge.
At first, we did not understand the Zek's request. The Sisko said that corporeal beings value their linear existence.
The Zek wanted to understand events outside the restrictions of linear time.
He wanted to see the future so he could gain by it.
Zek ultimately doesn't believe in competition, he believes in being the winner. While many capitalists and neoliberals talk about the virtues of the free market, what they really picture is domination. Monopoly as
Correct.
destiny. Tech CEOs like Peter Thiel don't even hide it, calling competition actually bad and openly pushing for monopolies.
Is that we think of capitalism and competition as synonyms, and I believe they are antonyms. I believe that a capitalist is someone who's in the business of accumulating capital. A world of perfect competition is a world where all the profits are competed away. What I think everybody who is a founder or entrepreneur should aim to do is build a monopoly.
Ultimately, all of these tech oligarchs and capitalists want Blade Runner, or the recent Alien Earth, a future where the nation states of the future are just mega corporations and run just as efficient.
They're at war, aren't they?
Jeff Bezos makes the same case, though he wraps it in Star Trek Explorer cosplay.
Because we don't wake up every morning with a competitive zeal to kill somebody else. We're more of explorers, and we kind of invent new ways, and we do wild things. A lot of them don't work. There's a lot of risk-taking, a lot of invention, and that is it works for us. I think one of the good things about taking a customer-centric approach instead of a competitor-centric approach is that if you get ahead in a particular field of or a particular arena, then you end up still being very motivated. Whereas if you're very competitor-focused, it's really difficult to stay motivated when you're number one in a particular arena.
Bezos doesn't reject the idea of competition because he's above it, like a Star Trekian evolved man. He rejects it because he already sees himself as number one, with everyone else as a customer inside his ecosystem. Elon Musk himself calls for the free marketplace of ideas on places like X, and yet will shove out and ban everyone who doesn't agree with him. And he does much the same thing with his companies. He used Doge when he took over it in the United States to undermine regulators of his companies, gutting the CFPB, kneecapping USAID, and purging the FAA. Mark Zuckerberg himself envisions his metaverse as the default platform for all of human activity in the future. Musk bought X to do the same with the backing of Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison's own company, Oracle, alongside SoftBank and Sam Altman's OpenAI, is now helping Donald Trump build Project Stargate. And yes, it's named after the 1994 film Stargate. Not even good Stargate like Atlantis. Yes, Atlantis is the best Stargate show. But Project Stargate is a sloppy algorithm network wrongly called AI integrated.
Hey, thank you very much for the raid. We are near the end of the video, but like at the same time, welcome to Star Trek Stellaris.
The computational space of the future. Musk, Bezos, Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Zuckerberg, they all package their utopias inside corporate ecosystems. Want to use the internet of the future? You'll do it through Meta. Want social media? It'll be filtered through Google, Musk, or even sooner Larry Ellison. Even the final frontier is being carved up. The International Space Station will deorbit in 2031, crashing into the ocean, and its replacement won't be international at all. Under the Trump administration, NASA acting administrator Sean Duffy signed a directive helping push full privatization of future space stations, encouraging more companies to bid against each other to earn space act agreements.
Well, thanks for stopping by, everyone.
Instead of a unified Star Trek style future, we're splintering into a patchwork of national and corporate fiefdoms.
Yeah,
space will
I would
become
fight
a
against
chain
Atlantis.
of
It's not that it was
strip
bad,
malls
but
with even
like
worse food. And if you want to dine at the future space station, well, you better have the right proprietary airlock connector. Back in profit motive, the prophets, of course, find Zek's ideology incomprehensible. To them, Zek's obsession with squeezing profit out of the future is the exact opposite of Cisco's joy in the unknown.
The Zek explained the value of gain, how more is preferable to less. He taught you about profit.
We found the concept aggressive.
Adversarial.
Dangerous. We could not comprehend how any species could lead such a barren existence.
And that's the tension right there. Star Trek's vision of time
Things are going very well. We're near the end of this video by
Later
what's
on,
her
the
lovely
Frank
name?
Park gives the
Jessie Gender. I've seen like one video by her
life
before. This video
through
is
nature.
kicking
He
my
insists,
butt. I highly
or
recommend
a
it.
soft swell of the Star Trek theme is
Yeah, she's
tries to
awesome.
mirror a Star Trek
I'm
captain's
highly impressed with
ideological
this video.
speech. That the drive for private accumulation, for profit and greed, is what pushes all beings to better themselves.
Right. Look, I don't know how you people live, but all of us corporeal, linear whatevers have certain things in common. And one of those things is the need to improve ourselves. Our ambition to improve ourselves motivates everything we do. Without ambition, without, dare I say it, greed, people would lie around all day doing nothing.
Oh, her take on
It
this is
wouldn't work.
amazing.
They wouldn't bathe. They wouldn't even eat. They'd starve to death. Is that what you want? Are you so isolated and detached that you would sit back and allow the extinction of every corporeal being in the galaxy?
It's the purest neoliberal argument that those who misunderstand Star Trek think it stands for. Individual primacy and hierarchical exploitation is the only real path to progress.
I will.
Which Quark thinks is not the means to the future, but the ends in and of itself.
Yeah.
And the prophets reject him outright. They point out that greed isn't natural, it's a self-destructive trap.
Yeah!
Your argument is specious. Changing you will not result in the termination of all corporeal existence.
And their experiment in the episode proved it. They turned Grand Nagus Zek in the episode into a kind, generous man, but not by fixing him or making him into some evolved future version of the Ferengi, but simply returning him to who he would have been had he not been born under Ferenginar's capitalist system.
We discovered that you have not always been as you are now.
We haven't?
There was a time when your people's acquiring nature was not so pronounced.
Wait a second. Are you telling me that you somehow de-evolved the Nagus?
We have restored the Zek to an earlier, less adversarial state of existence.
Awesome!
This episode is a parody of capitalist mindsets that is just as applicable to today's tech billionaires. Musk, Bezos, Anderson, all men who think they get Star Trek, but mistake capitalism for immutable human nature. They're obsessed with the idea that the future is inevitable, that they've glimpsed the blueprint through the Matrix, and that it's their personal calling to make it real. Once you notice it, you see how much this theme is embedded in much of their mythology.
Exactly.
Take Rogo's Basilisk as an example, an influential thought experiment in Silicon Valley that was created on a forum for AI startup Less Wrong. The Rogo's Basilisk thought experiment imagines a future super intelligent AI that's so powerful it can simulate the past perfectly. And once that future AI exists, it decides to create a simulation of time and punish anyone who knew about the possibility of this future sentient AI but didn't help bring it into existence. And on that logic, you should be motivated to help bring it about now because you may in fact be living in that simulation. So the moment you hear about the Basilisk, sorry by the way, you're not trapped in its game. It's a warped sci-fi version of Pascal's wager. It's better to believe in God just in case God exists. Except for here, God is an all-knowing robot with a brain. And while that sounds absurd, many in tech circles take the underlying premise seriously. It's a tech bro reinvention of rapture ideology, that one must believe and make the rapture, singularity, occur so as not to be punished by Jesus. The AI, when it does. In Mark Anderson's Tech Optimist Manifesto, he writes,
"We believe any deceleration of AI will cost lives." Fuck, God.
God, no.
God damn it.
These are
We
idiots.
believe any deceleration of AI will cost lives.
God, it's
Deaths
not worth
that
it.
were preventable by the AI.
As an
that were
android,
prevented
I'm
from
telling you,
existing
I'm not worth
is
it.
a form of murder.
Oh,
It's so
God,
dumb.
I feel so
It's so dumb. Right? Oh my god.
You have to let me continue to develop AI, stealing stuff from every single person who has ever interacted with anything, while at the same time eating up the precious resources of the planet, most especially water, is important because at some point in the future, the technology I design might save a person. Do you understand how many fucking people's lives you are making worse by this shit existing? He understands.
In Anderson's worldview, refusing to build the AI future is not just short-sighted, it's an act of violence towards non-existent future humans. It's the idea of effective altruism
they
and
aren't even thinking
long-termism
about.
that Philosophy Tube did this excellent breakdown of. Go check that out because she breaks it down better than I can. But to them, the future is a fixed point, a straight line, and their role, the role of any visionary CEO, is to drag the rest of us towards that torment nexus, utopia, even if it kills us. Better a dead future they control than an unpredictable one that they don't. Again, take Sam Altman, who when directly confronted with a question about people losing their jobs in his so-called AI by 2035, instead gets nervous trying to imagine that apocalyptic future, dodges the question and instead gives unspecific aphorisms about humanity going to the stars and looking down on us poor humans today because we didn't have the technology to do so. We're just so back.
But I will take.
So we're college graduates in 5 years. What do you hope the world looks like for us? I think there's been a lot of talk about how AI might cause job displacement. What are the things that we could look ahead if we're thinking
Let's
about
go.
being
2035,
college
that like graduating college students,
Spy
if they
Network,
still
let's
go to
go.
college at all, could very well be like leaving on a mission to explore the solar system on a spaceship in some kind of completely new, exciting, super well-paid, super interesting job, and feeling so bad for you and I that like we had to do this kind of like really boring old kind of work, and everything is just better. Like I 10 years feels very hard to imagine at this point.
Because it's too far.
It's too far.
Sam Altman and all of these tech CEOs have no actual vision, no actual
None.
desire to help people today, just vague utopian promises while barreling ahead with his Roko's Basilisk-style religious mission to cause the rapture. Sorry, I mean the singularity. My tongue keeps getting twisted there for some reason.
She's hilarious.
Anyways, he wants to build that super intelligent chat GPT with no thought to the human, environmental, or cultural cost, or, importantly, if it's even remotely possible. Because, you know, it's not. Let me be clear, don't buy into the propaganda. Humans are not going to create a super intelligent AI, at least based on how MLMs
Honestly,
like
for real.
ChatGPT operate. But it's ultimately just propaganda hype that OpenAI
I'm gonna go out of my way to
and
watch your
push
videos
to
from
make
now on out.
themselves
I'm gonna
look like
definitely
they're
give her
the
a
ones
like.
going to bring about our sci-fi future
I was already
instead of people
subscribed,
like
but-
Musk or Bezos who are building rocket ships. That's why I get so frustrated with people
freaking-
like YouTuber Cleo Adams.
The
who
freaking
interviewed
J.J.
Sam
Abrams
Altman. She
films,
literally
whatever.
opened the video by
The three
comparing
new ones
Altman and
weren't even
OpenAI's propaganda that
good.
they're
They were
building a
fun.
superintelligence.
They were
And never once
paint
challenged
jobs
that
of
framing
Star
or
Trek,
even
but they weren't
questioned the
Star Trek
assumption
films.
at any point during the interview on whether such a thing could be built the way OpenAI is attempting. And this isn't me trying to do a
You want to know why Star Trek 7, the one with the whales, is so popular? Because that's literally an hour and a half long Star Trek episode. It's literally a two-part Star Trek episode that they just did. I'm not saying that they wrote it to be one. I'm saying that is one of the closest ones. Like the fucking fifth one where they meet God that was written by Shatner. Oh my god. No. But 7 with the whales?
Is the key to the universe.
Fucking bring me those whales. I will take those humpbacks right to the future so they can breed and make Viger or whomever it was at that time happy. But hell yeah. Anyway, back to Jessie.
Call out of Cleo Abrams. She's just an example of something that many people are doing right now, but her whole piece came off as little more than a promo for ChatGPT 5, framed exactly the way that Altman wants it, as if he's trying to make the Star Trek future real.
I'm about to interview Sam Altman, the CEO
of OpenAI.
OpenAI's reshaping industries.
Dude's a straight up tech lord, let's be honest.
Right now, they're trying to build a super intelligence that could far exceed humans in almost every field. And they just released their most powerful model yet. Just a couple years ago, that would have sounded like science fiction. Not anymore.
We made this one up. It's fiction.
Critically, people will believe that propaganda. And tech pros may even convince themselves that Altman is the Virgin Mary about to birth the singularity. But what ChatGPT, or any so-called radical disruptive technology these oligarchs hype as what will bring us to the future while conveniently owning the companies behind them, is really about is creating dependency. Trapping people in a decaying orbit around a technological black hole. Each CEO competing to become the singularity that devours all the others until we're all dragged past the event horizon with no escape. It's the slow motion hollowing out of society in service of a fantasy future. A warped, corporatized facsimile of Star Trek's utopia. All of these CEOs think about the future in the exact same way. Take Jeff Bezos.
You know, it's really hard to know what Amazon will look like 20 years from now because so many things change. You can't really base a strategy on the technology or who your competitors are, or those things change so quickly. But the one thing that I think you can really count on in any field of endeavor is your customers and what their needs are.
To Bezos, the future should be predictable, because predictability is stability, stability is control, and control means he gets to be Zephyr
So
Copper,
nothing ever
Gene
changes.
Roddenberry, the one
Gross.
who saw it all coming and made it happen. He wants to still see the future as full of customers, rather than thinking about how to actually help people, because he fundamentally sees the future and everyone who lives in it as something he can exploit. And the further ahead that he can predict that future so he can exploit it even more, the better. It's no wonder he spent decades funding the 10,000-year clock, a massive art project designed by former VP of Research at Disney Imagineering Daniel Hills that is meant to symbolize long-term thinking.
Symbols can be very, very valuable, and we have, as a species, become so omnipotent on planet Earth that we're really going to have to start thinking longer term. It can, in a lot of different ways.
What a douche nozzle. Oh my god.
And you can accomplish so much if you think long term. You can't think short term. So if I said to you, I want you to take this mission, I want you to solve world hunger in 5 years, you would rightly just turn down that mission. You would say, that's not possible, why would you even bother trying? But if I said to you, let's solve world hunger in 100
exactly.
years, now that's actually much more tractable. Now you can think about it and you can say, okay, well,
do it now.
How do we create the preconditions
But you can do it
that are
now.
necessary to solve world hunger? And so long-term thinking is a huge lever, and I think it gets harder to do as the speed of invention and civilization changes, in part because it sometimes doesn't make sense to think long term if everything is changing so quickly. That's why, kind of taking that back to the customer needs that I was talking about before, you need to find those things that we know as a society that we'll want even 100 years from now.
Even 100.
Make sure that we go about.
I want the credit, but I don't want to. Oh my! I just.
But Bezos ignores the fact that he has the resources to end world hunger today, not 100 or 1,000 years from now. In 2022, the UN World Food Program Executive Director David Beasley stated that it would take only an estimated $40 billion each year to end world hunger by 2030. Less than 20% of what Bezos is personally worth. He could commit a fraction of his fortune, a fraction. Partner with governments and NGOs and see real change in his own
We're near the
lifetime.
end, but welcome to
his philosophy of time
watch
pushes these
along.
solutions into some vague centuries-away horizon because the point isn't actually solving
Jessie
world
Gender
hunger, it's securing
has
the
hit
future
this
as a
video out of
space
the
that
park.
he
I am
owns.
enamored
If you actually
with
look
this
at physics,
synopsis.
Time isn't something that's fixed. It's relative, shaped by your position in space, how fast you're moving, and the gravity around you. The more massive an object, the more it bends space-time, slowing time itself nearby. Tech oligarchs want to be that massive object, a black hole of capital and influence, warping time so we all live inside their event horizon, trapped in their versions of the future. A lot of all these things that I've been saying in this video, though, I think a lot of you probably already intuitively understood on some level. But the thing that I really want you to understand here is that underneath all the slick utopian branding of techno-fascist futurism is one thing. Raw fear.
Yeah.
Their rush to colonize space or trap us in the metaverse or to build the super intelligent AI isn't about saving humanity or even really about controlling the futures so they can dominate it. What it's really about, deep down, is about saving themselves from death.
Yes!
They're terrified of their own death. Every single one of them. Take Elon Musk's obsession with having as many children as possible. It's textbook reproductive futurism. The belief that your legacy only survives if the future is populated with people who think, look, and act just like you. Little copies of yourself out into the future that means you get to have some form of eternal life. It's the same anxiety that fuels his white genocide tweets, that fuels any sort of racial eugenicist ideal.
Awful.
Just here reframed in sci-fi packaging. Take out when Mark Cuban asked how many kids Musk was planning to have. Musk replied,
Mars needs people.
But this is why they control women's bodies, workers' bodies, everyone else's autonomy, because they just want to stop themselves from death. They dream of various versions of immortality, a future where history remembers them as the visionary who saved humanity, or their name carved into monuments, or their consciousness uploaded to the cloud, or their bodies kept from ever decaying. Hell, the goal of Les Wong's Eliezer Yudkowsky is to quite literally, as tech writer David Gerard points out,
live forever as a human mind running as a process on the future super-intelligent AI God computer.
Literally, their argument is that we must cause the creation of this super-intelligent AI so that we can all live forever because the future AI God will revive every living person eternally. Again, if...
Yeah. When I was 12, I thought this way too.
Being colonized.
Buddy, you're 12. You're just 12 and afraid to die. And I get it. I'm still afraid to die, but like, for the love of God, existence has become so horrible because of people like you that I kind of also don't mind death. But more importantly, the only reason I would want to live forever is just to see more. I want to see and experience more, and that is a very selfish endeavor. Let's be real. I want to contribute, I want to help, I want to make the world and the universe a better place, but to live forever is indeed a selfish, no matter how thoughtful and selfless your mentality might be, you are now drained on resources forever. Congratulations. But there's so much to offer in your time alive on this planet. Being alive right now, as we speak, is such an interesting time. Be grateful for what we have, not because we're supposed to be, but because to be born is just an experience, and to experience is something. Who says life has to have a purpose? Perhaps all you just need to find is a purpose for yourself. The most noble one could possibly be do more for others, and not just fellow humans, but every living thing. We have gained so much intelligence. Let's put it to use and make this world a better place. Like, how is that a hard thing to see? How is that? I need to shut up and stop ranting. You guys let me yap too much. You guys should have been saying something in chat and telling me to shut the hell up. Back to the video. We stopped pointedly on Neo Genesis Evangelion scene, which is just hilarious. But let's get back to the video.
It's just the rapture. It's just Jesus. It's just heaven above us and God above. This eternal paradise that we're all meant to live within. They're all just stories of control. But whether it's Musk's need to have as many babies as possible to populate the stars, or AI immortality, or shit like tech CEO Brian Johnson infamously transfusing his teenage son's blood into himself to keep himself from getting young, it's all the same impulse. Control the future so completely that they can live eternally and avoid death in some way, shape, or form. But human fear of death is really a fear of change, of time itself. We can imagine the future as humans, which means we can imagine our ending. And that knowledge drives some to hoard, to freeze the present, to shut out anything that might change it. But time isn't a straight line to be locked down. It's a shifting web of possibilities, as Captain Sisko himself said. Immortality doesn't come from clinging to the self. It comes from change, from living on through community, from caring for what comes next after you. In both physics and Star Trek, time isn't a perfect circle that returns to itself. Time only exists because things change. If nothing changed, there would be no time at all.
Right. God, Jessie just knocked it out of the park.
Time isn't a river endlessly flowing forward. It's a measure of transformation, a remembrance of what has come before and how it's different from what came after. We only perceive time because of our pain, our traumas, our memories of the past, and how they are different from where we are now, because we've become something different, both in our own lifetimes and after it, as a society, as a culture, as a universe. It's why it's important to hold on to our memories of the past, but not be defined by them, not try to hold on to them, not try to idealize them and press them into the future. We shouldn't fear change, because change is time. It's inevitable. It's the only thing that is.
It's good.
It's the only thing that keeps the universe alive. Despite correctly understanding its reflection of Western colonial impulses, tech oligarchs still fundamentally misunderstand Star Trek because they fundamentally misunderstand what it means to be human. To them, Star Trek is their utopia, ordered, perfect, and familiar. It's not about surpassing the present, it's about preserving it to them, rather than a nostalgic past they grew up idolizing, just with better gadgets. And for any neoliberal, it's America as it was in the 60s, the 80s, that we need to make great again in the future. Fascism itself thrives on that logic. The future is a recreation of the past, an endless Ouroboros imposed upon the present. Star Trek to them isn't a challenge, it's a return. And they see themselves as the chosen ones who will bring it back. Those heroes on those heroes' journeys.
I hate it.
They are the spawn of every system of power and control that is fed upon the next one. Organized religion, colonialism, white supremacy, capitalism, nation-state nationalism, techno-fascism. All stacked like rotting bricks
they're just gonna keep going. They're not gonna
collapsing
stop.
Tower. Each one props up the other, recycling the same lies until they mistake themselves for profits.
Let's see, what year did we get into this war?
They sell a flawless future that can never exist because it's nothing more than a fetishized, airbrushed version of a past that never was. Chasing that mirage, they'll sanction any atrocity, excuse any cruelty, so long as their name is etched on the blueprint. The belief that if they brand the future as theirs, they'll never truly die. And the future doesn't begin on our social media platforms or the internet or outer space. It starts first in how we dream of the future. That's why people like Larry Ellison have pushed to have 27.5 voting rights in Paramount's board post-merger. Why Jeff Bezos paid to send Shatner into space, and why modern Star Trek film sets look like an Apple store.
Right?
Because they want to push to make our dreams of the future look only like theirs. They covet Star Trek's look, not its soul, turning its promise of exploration into a showroom for their ideology. They control the aesthetic, they control the blueprint of how we dream. So every vision of tomorrow is built inside the borders of their worldview. When in truth, dreams are boundless. We dream about what's beyond the edge of the map, not what's confined within its edges. Stories like Star Trek are being hollowed out just as vehicles for nostalgia. Look, Captain Kirk is back. Look, it's the Enterprise again and again and again. Don't you just love living in the Star Trek utopia? They ignore that Star Trek used to have actual commentary baked into it from the beginning, not just enjoy the fun little space zooms and shoot cubes. Because in clinging to the mythologized past, they miss the actual truth entirely. Star Trek's future was never a fixed point, it's a reach. It's flawed, it's contradictory, and shaped by the baggage of capitalism, colonialism, and preordained Western timelines, yes, but it's still always a reach for something new beyond that. At its best, imagination grows because we choose to understand, not control one another. A future that evolves through change, through learning, through the messy, imperfect work of connection. In Star Trek, the future doesn't arrive because of technology. The Federation doesn't exist because Zefram Cochrane built a warp drive.
Right!
It happened because we met the Vulcans. We met someone else who was unlike ourselves and started to realize that we weren't alone and became curious at what else was out there, to learn who else was out there. And Zefram Cochrane wasn't a great man who did it alone. He worked alongside Lily Sloan, a black woman who was erased from most of Star Trek's history books.
I hate that, by the way.
Who created the warp?
Thank God for Lower Decks giving her a proper place. That was awesome.
By people who inspire each other to reach further than they could alone. And so too is our future been built by that same impulse. People like Nichelle Nichols helped recruit more women, especially black women, for NASA. Mae Jemison, the first black woman in space, credits Nichols for inspiring her.
Hell yeah.
The International Space Station Commander Samantha Cristofetti told Deep Space Nine actor Nana Visitor that the show shaped her career. One of my closest friends in the world and Star Trek scientific advisor, Dr. Aaron McDonald, credits Captain Janeway herself for inspiring her to finish her PhD in astrophysics.
Love it.
Just as countless other women credit Star Trek with inspiring them to join STEM. And numerous philosophers, artists, politicians, and creators of every kind have drawn from Star Trek in order to try to create their own visions and stories and art and trying to make a better world. And many people just found themselves through Star Trek. I mean, I know a trans woman who works as a YouTuber and is now pursuing a career as a film director who credits Star Trek for both of those ambitions, for sparking her desire to tell stories on screen, and for giving her the language to understand herself, myself. In characters like Jessie Dax, I saw a future where I could exist fully as myself, a reflection of who I could be and a vision of what humanity could become. As part of it, as part of a whole that accepted me, not that tossed me aside. Star Trek isn't a sacred text that we're fated to make real. It's an aspiration we reach for, and in reaching, make better than a show like Star Trek could ever imagine. We saw ourselves in the alien and realized we
I'm gonna
weren't so
freaking
different
cry.
from each other. At its core, Star Trek isn't about outer space technology or even the future. It's about exploring what it means to be us, both the self within and the connections that bind us to one another.
The most profound discoveries
Let's go, Himbo.
are not necessarily beyond that next star. They're within us.
Thanks, Himbo Captain.
Woven into the threads that bind us.
God, Scott Bakula. Ugh.
All of us.
I just...
To each other.
Oh well.
And it's because Gene Roddenberry, for all his flaws, and all those who have worked on Star Trek, had something today's CEOs have always lacked. Curiosity. Empathy. And the capacity. No. The desire to be changed by others. To let the world change around them and be okay with that. To the tech CEO's mind, that's too terrifying. In sci-fi author Robert Heinlein's novel, Stranger in a Strange Land, the word grok is a Martian word meaning to understand something so completely you merge with it. And after Star Trek the original series run was canceled, Trekkies wore t-shirts that said, I grok Spock. Because Spock, the ultimate other, embodied
Construction
infinite
completed.
diversity and infinite combinations. He was not an alien, but someone that we understood as us. And Spock
Evasive
defined
maneuvers.
Star Trek. Kirk is made better because of Spock. Spock is made better because of Kirk. Spock himself finds that he is not defined by his human and Vulcan sides, but as something that is uniquely him. Each thing changes the other that it touches. Tech billionaires flatten that into techno-fascism, afraid to let anything change them, only defining the future by themselves. Now, Grok is synonymous with an algorithm that Musk changes on a whim to make reflect his white genocide his
We are
real
being
fears. Twisting a word that was meant to mean deep understanding into something that is used as a tool for someone else to control. Because that's how these tech
We are
CEOs
being
see all of
hailed.
us. Not as people to understand, but as resources to be owned,
Construction
managed,
completed.
and used up. Hell, Musk's own daughter, Vivian Wilson, came out
Who's
as a
awesome.
trans woman
Research
and publicly
concluded.
cut ties with him. And for Musk, that was his red pill moment. A shift to him fighting
Oh
woke
my
ideology.
God.
Not because of gender itself, but because she rejected the future that he had scripted for her.
Yeah!
Where she was just another little copy of himself sent out into the universe to just be him in the future. She
Gross.
rejected his story of Musk himself as Adam in the Garden of Eden, ordained to name and control everything beneath him. Trans people are living proof the future isn't inevitable or pre-written, as are any marginalized person existing today as themselves. We each choose who we are. We make ourselves.
Hell yeah.
And for men like Musk, that's terrifying, because if people can choose a future beyond their control, they can choose a future without them.
Yeah!
And that's what we need to do. Choose a future
Fuck the billionaires.
without them. It is true that capitalism subsumes all critiques of itself, and Star Trek is just a projection of the future based on the biases and assumptions of our present. But it is also true that we build our collective futures, our actual collective futures, within the oppressive and controlling present. We resist the defined, pre-planned destinies imposed by the powerful by building our own within their endless looping present and break out of it. Star Trek has never been about its utopia, but the people in that future still striving to grow, focused on becoming their better selves, never getting there, but always trying.
It is the struggle itself that is most important. We must strive to be more than we are, Lao.
Hell yeah.
It does not
This is a
matter
great episode, by the way.
that we will never reach our ultimate goal.
Council agenda available.
The effort yields its own rewards.
You can see that within Star Trek itself, within the character played by the man who roasted Musk on his own platform, Robert Picardo's The Doctor. At first, the Doctor is just the Voyager's emergency medical hologram, programmed to treat injuries, then shut down and never have an existence on his own. He isn't even considered a person by most of the crew and even the captain.
You wouldn't even be considering this if they were flesh and blood.
I'm not going to let you turn this into an argument about holographic rights.
Why not? That's exactly what it is.
But over the course of the show,
Love it.
as he learns that he can be more than just his pre-programmed role, he fights to express himself, to name himself, to
Yeah.
prove that he's more than just a tool for someone else to use. In the episode Author, he even writes a thinly veiled holonovel about his experiences with prejudice aboard the Voyager. But the Federation reviews the book and rules that as a hologram, he has no legal rights, not even to own his own work. But he still tried to express himself, and that mattered because in the end, while the book is withheld, it still leaks. In other holograms, just like the
Research
Doctor find
concluded.
it, these same holograms are being forced to work as labor in dilithium mines, but they share it in secret. And it slowly becomes a spark that makes them realize they can be something more. A manifesto of sorts. Something that they can build solidarity around, because it's a story that says you are people, not property. Star Trek has already written the parable that Musk doesn't understand. AI in Star Trek isn't about a shiny new toy for billionaires to make themselves gods upon. It's a metaphor for marginalized people demanding recognition, dignity, and freedom from exploitation. Star Trek has always been a collective story. A story
being teary-eyed
that is not
for real.
inevitable, but one that we must seize for ourselves in order to reach for it. Because in the end, the story is ours, or it's nobody's.
God damn, Jesse. What the hell, woman? This is the best thing I've ever seen. You are now officially going to become a character in my freaking book. Absolutely spectacular.
We must learn to value the
difference we find in other people. If we cannot handle the small variations we have here among
Hell yeah.
on Earth, then God help us if we get into space and see the variation that is almost certainly out there.
Freaking my God.
Research concluded. Ready.
Fuck you, Jesse. This was
In case
awesome.
you didn't get it, and if I'm being too subtle, what I'm saying is to make the Star Trek future, we need to build a kind of class consciousness and solidarity because that's the only way we get a better future. And as Star Trek once said directly to a capitalist's face,
Workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains.
Hey there, internet. This is editing Jesse.
There's always
who
a
just
Star
finished
Trek
this
line. There's
video.
always a Star
I'll try
Trek
and keep this
episode.
short because I was trying to keep this under 2 hours.
No,
though
fuck that.
I
You
think
did
I
great.
failed at that.
You did
but I
great.
just wanted to say thank you all for watching and supporting. Being kind of frank, I've been going through a lot of depression lately for probably obvious reasons if you looked out at the world, as well as some personal things that have been going on in my life. Don't worry, I'm doing okay, but it's been rough. And I just want to say thank you for watching and supporting and, you know, just supporting each other through all of the bullshit that's been going on right now.
Absolutely giving
I
that
did
a
want to
like.
say I do have some big projects coming up, including some ones that I haven't announced yet that this video is actually kind of a tangential part of that I'll hopefully be able to announce sometime in the next few months, if not early next year. I'm kind of working on it because it kind of had a few setbacks recently. But I just wanted to say if you want to be able to support me in any of those projects, please do consider supporting me over on Patreon. Just being frank, as many of you know, YouTube has been kind of shit for a lot of creators lately, and there's been other things like me trying to figure out how to get out of this country and other stuff like that that is just causing a lot of money worries. So if you can support me and you want to see more videos like this or other videos that I'm doing or help me on my other projects, Patreon is the place to do it. But if you can't do that, I totally understand. We all have a lot of stuff going on. I just hope you're all taking care of yourselves and sending you love, and I look forward to hopefully getting you the next thing and all the other stuff that I have planned in making kind of hopeful things, even in a world that is making it harder to be so. Take care, y'all.
Thank you so much, Jesse. That was phenomenal. We're just going to go ahead and stop that immediately so he doesn't jump to the next video. Wow! Okay, that was a great video. I really enjoyed it. I kind of want to show you guys another video, but it is... Oh my god, 2:30. I already went 30 minutes past my normal time. I hope everyone had a lot of fun tonight because I know I did. Yeah. No, I'm glad I streamed that. I hope everyone joined in who did and watched it with me, had a good time. Of course, as a streamer, I have to say I'm legally obligated by existence. It's to say please like, follow, and/or subscribe depending on your platform. And most importantly, I think I'm gonna go get zooted, eat a little bit, and snuggle up to my girlfriend. You guys have an outstanding night, and you know how I'm gonna end it. Hold on. I'm gonna. Let me. Hold on, wait. Let's get. Okay. We got the Stellaris music. What's a good one? Oh, we're on one of the better ones, but where are we in it? I don't know. Deep Space Travels. Perfect. Okay. Oh. I'm going to be using Stellaris music for my tabletop that I'm making, the book that I'm writing, the tabletop I'm making. I am definitely going to use Stellaris music when streaming it, but we'll get to that. All right, so everyone, it's always such a pleasure streaming for you all. Thank you so much for your company. Thank you so much for hanging with me. Be the best version of yourself you can be. Fight the fascists. And keep growing against gravity. Good night, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Oh, I just realized I have enough of you in the Twitch. I'm gonna try to raid somebody. Let's see what happens if I raid. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Let's see here. I know how to raid. I know how to do it. I'm doing it right now. I'm so good at it. Let me see if I can. Will it let me?
More, baby!